Super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding? Would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Back to you, Andy.
Oh, Len Thomas in here.
Oh, Len, hey.
Traffic's still a bit sluggish. Northbound I-15 Midvale to Murray and on to South Salt Lake. And now a crash southbound I-15 at 2300 North. That's on the left shoulder, slowing things just a little bit there. And otherwise in Davis County, just a little bit of slowing in Kaysville down to the ponds. Is the IRS harassing you? Are tax problems ruining your life? Let Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox help. Visit taxhelput.com. That's taxhelput.com. I'm Len Thomas, the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, we'll use this term loosely, slightly cooler today, or less miserable, I guess maybe is the way to put it. As we look for a high of 99 degrees, there's a 20% chance of showers. We heat back up to 100 by the weekend, and maybe records, daily records, set Saturday, Sunday with the expectation of 104. Right now it's 82 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We are certainly keeping a close eye on that fire at Flaming Gorge. It's gone from 5 acres last night to 100 acres this morning, according to what Tim Hughes is just reporting. Also got our eye on the rising temperatures this morning, the heat, and of course, ABC News reporting that President Trump has, or former President Trump has received a letter that he is a target of yet another federal investigation. This one, the January 6th special counsel's criminal probe.
I'll be honest, I was shocked to hear about this January 6th thing. I thought we were past this. I thought this was old news, but it looks like there's another layer to it. It's 9:07. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are 3 things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
We'll also take you live right off the top of our 10 o'clock hour to the southern border. News Nation's Allie Bradley just tweeting this out, that the U.S. government, Dave, has reportedly lost track of at least 85,000 unaccompanied migrant children who've been released into the United States. So we're going to touch base with Allie, who's at the border, to discuss one of the options that they're talking about to control the flow of the migrants and keep track of people, and that is they're asking for volunteers.
It's a disaster, and it's been a disaster for a long time. Hundreds of thousands, millions of immigrants have been crossing the border. You can't keep track of this many folks. And when you're talking about children, this should be the priority. We've got to know where these unaccompanied minors are. And if they're getting lost somewhere in the country and staying with family or friends, whatever it might be, that has got to be the priority. It shocks me that 85,000 have gone missing.
Countdown. 2.
You might have to practice his name, learn his name, as I have. Vivek Ramaswamy. Did I say it right, Dave? He's shaking his head yes.
Nailed it.
He's surging in the polls for the race for the White House. He is now in a comfortable 3rd place in the Republican race for president, trailing only Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis.
I've got fresh legs. I'm Trump in 2015 and then some, because I'm not just doing A, fresh legs. B, I'm younger, reach the next generation. I think that's an important part of this.
And younger is no exaggeration, Debbie. He's 37. You have to be 35 at least to run.
Really makes the cutoff. Okay.
He just beat it.
That's a breath of fresh air, huh?
Yeah, as Ron DeSantis is losing support, Vivek is gaining it. And he has no shortage of ideas. We're going to dive into a lot of these ideas specifically, get to know him a little better. but it ranges from getting rid of the IRS to having
What?
the presidential physical fitness be a requirement
Well, he
for
can say
college
that.
admissions. Like you got a timed mile. That's not like an official platform, but it was definitely one of his ideas.
Launch countdown. 1.
We have another summer holiday weekend on the horizon. It's a Utah exclusive. It's Pioneer Day, right, the 24th. So we have a serious conversation about the drinking that goes on the holidays at the lakes and other places, at the bars, the driving, and a new way of punishing offenders that's catching on across the nation. And Dave, you actually caught this story from News Nation. Drunk drivers who crash and kill a parent now being held legally responsible to pay child support. There's a grandma who lost a son and a daughter-in-law to a drunk driver. She's now raising her 2 grandsons alone, and she's pushing this all over the United States.
I heard stories from families who suffer because they are suddenly raising children again, and it was really hard for them.
And if you're wondering how in the world could they pay child support if they're in jail, it would be once they get released from jail. But let me add another layer to it. Would you be more interested in this DUI individual? Would you be more interested in them working and paying child support versus being behind bars?
Dave and Dujanovic.
The Launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
I want to start our discussion, Dave, by talking about the scope of the problem here in Utah. Because we don't often hear about the DUI crashes that end with nobody being killed. We often hear about the ones where people are killed. And I always say, by the grace of the Lord, so many DUI drivers go when they end up getting home safely, even though they're drunk. They could have killed so many people along the way. But the crash data that I looked at this morning shows just the latest crash data available for a 1-year period, 3,000 drug and alcohol-related crashes in Utah. And I also want to point this out. Our state laws and our punishments have been notoriously weak, in my view.
I can't even tell you. I don't know exactly what they are.
I will deliver this information to you in the next few minutes.
But 3,000.
Yeah.
You said 3,000 here in Utah, drug and alcohol-related crashes?
Crashes within like a 1-year period.
That's about 10 a day.
So our state laws have been notoriously weak. In a moment, I'm going to talk more about that. But here's what's going on across the nation that really caught our eye. I wondered if we should do it here in Utah.
In Tennessee, Texas, Kentucky, and Maine, convicted drunk drivers may be required to pay child support for the children whose parents do not survive in the crash.
And Debbie, when I saw this story, and this was reported on News Nation, it piqued my interest because I thought, not only is it a massive tragedy if a parent is killed and a child survives. So obviously, the heartbreak, the misery, that is one angle of it. But for the grandparents, the family members, the friends that are going to take care of that child, or the remaining parent that's going to take care of that child, there's a huge financial burden as well to take care of that child. So would you require that DUI driver to pay child support? It sounded like a no-brainer. Like, this is a great idea.
And it's not just those states.
Now, at least a dozen other states are considering similar bills. It's up to the judge to decide how much the offender must pay up every month. And if they are incarcerated, they must start payments within the year after they are released.
We got to save lives, and I believe this is how it's done.
Does Utah have an appetite? Do Utah lawmakers have an appetite to stiffen our penalties here? So I said I feel as though drunk driving laws in the state have been fairly weak. The first time you get caught, it's a misdemeanor. Second time you get caught, it's a misdemeanor.
Without, say, a crash or a fatality.
Now, that escalates to a felony. So you could do some more serious time. But I've covered so many stories and families' stories over the years where they've been injured by a drunk driver, or the drunk driver caused a crash but maybe didn't cause any injuries, and they've seemingly just kind of get away with it time after time again, and it's been frustrating. So this law is particularly of interest to me. I'm captivated by it. I was reading up on Tennessee has a version of it, Dave, and when a drunk driver kills a parent or parents and leaves a child kind of like in the hands of grandma and grandpa, or maybe one parent who is struggling to raise them, a judge can order that drunk driver to pay child support to the standard, and this is right from the Tennessee law, to the standard of living to which the child is accustomed. Right? So it's not just $50 a month, right? To the standard of living to which this child is accustomed.
Yeah, this is a very, very interesting idea. And this obviously would be above and beyond whatever the insurance settlement is, or whatever is determined through insurance.
Well, the grandmother who is pushing this across the nation, who lost her son and daughter-in-law, and is now raising her 2 grandsons, said this is the deterrent we need, right? If you knew that you were going to get, you're going to get drunk and you're going to drive, you could end up footing the bill till they're 18 years old. So next, let's ask KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas to join us and ask, can we do this in Utah? Should we?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
This Friday, whether you're getting out of town or simply trying to get around town,
let's go for a little ride.
We're adding more traffic coverage for anyone that stops by.
Why? Because we like you.
Triple Team Traffic for the 24th starts Friday at noon on KSL News Radio.
Looking for a trusted oral surgery practice? Look no further than Aspire Surgical. With a team of highly skilled and experienced board-certified oral and facial surgeons, Aspire Surgical offers a variety of surgical services, from wisdom teeth removal to dental implants to facial cosmetics. At Aspire Surgical, patient comfort and safety are top priorities. Their state-of-the-art facilities and advanced techniques ensure that patients receive the best possible care in a comfortable and safe environment. Visit their website at aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Trust Aspire Surgical for all your oral surgery needs. Visit aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Aspire Surgical, where your aspirations become a reality. On Tuesday, August 22nd, the Orrin G. Hatch Foundation will present Senate Leader Mitch McConnell and Secretary Elaine Chao with the Titan of Public Service Award at the Grand America Hotel in Salt Lake City. You're invited to join Senator McConnell and Secretary Chao as tribute is paid for their decades of public service to our country. Reserve your tickets today for dinner and a musical performance by Elizabeth Smart at this special event at OrrinHatchFoundation.org. That's ORRIN Hatchfoundation.org.
With our roots in northern Utah, Holy Cross Hospital has a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
At Holy Cross Hospital, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake and equally honored to care for northern Utah's vibrant communities. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
Premium checking from America First Credit Union is so much more than a regular checking account. It's a saves you money, makes life easier, always has your back account, because it's absolutely loaded with fantastic benefits and features. In fact, it comes stocked with so much awesome stuff. It was voted Best Perks by Money.com. So make sure you're rocking more than a checking account. Head to America First and apply for the exclusive protection, perks, and paybacks of premium checking today. Subject to membership eligibility and conditions, federally insured by NCUA. Since 1939, 1989, America First has been helping people pursue their financial goals. And as we have, we've become one of the largest credit unions in the country. The reason why is simple. It's because every day we do our very best to help each person, family, and business we serve to realize their individual dreams and achieve financial well-being. True to our name, we always strive to put our members and employees first. So come join us and let us put you first. America First Credit Union. Federally insured by NCUA.
I have to admit, when I heard that Hale Center Theater was going to be presenting Newsies, I was really excited. My whole family, as a matter of fact. Dee and I caught the performance the other night, and it is terrific. The youthful energy is simply amazing. Song after song that you love, highlighting, of course, a wonderful story that we can all appreciate. The youthful audience, too, they were loving Hale Center Theater and the presentation of Newsies. But much more is coming up, too. Disney's Finding Nemo Jr., Catch Me If You Can, a murder mystery, Around the World in 80 Days, and Elf the Musical is going to take us through the holidays. All of that and so much more is waiting for you at Hale Center Theater. Don't be left out on Newsies. It is so much fun. Your whole family is absolutely going to love it. And all you have to do is go to hct.org and get your tickets now. That's hct.org, Hale Center Theater.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, former President Donald Trump is now being targeted by the special prosecutor into the investigation to overturn the 2020 election. Mr. Trump says he received a letter from Jack Smith putting him on notice. Second, more than 100 million people in the U.S. remain under extreme heat warnings. St. George residents are being asked not to use their clothes dryers, dishwashers, or even ovens in order to reduce the strain on the city's power grid. And third, the FDA approved a drug which could reduce kids' risk of catching RSV by up to 75%. We're expecting a high later this afternoon of 99 degrees, and right now in Salt Lake City it is cloudy and 82. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
David Dujanovic.
In other states, drunk drivers who crash and kill a parent are now being held legally responsible to pay child support. There is this wave across the country to do this, and it's really largely because of a grandma, Dave, who lost her son and daughter-in-law to a drunk driver in Missouri and is now raising her two surviving grandsons. And she's pushing this all over the country. And she told News Nation, which is where you spotted the story, she feels like this law will be a deterrent to drunk drivers from getting behind the wheel drunk. If you know you're going to have to pay child support forever until the kids are 18.
We got to save lives, and I believe this is how it's done.
When I thought about this, Deb, not only is the victim's family dealing with heartbreak and sadness and grief, but now whoever gets those children is financially responsible for them. And how difficult must that be to not only deal with all the emotions and the heartbreak and the sadness, but also think, do I have to get a second job? How am I going to take care of this child? Is it going to be...
What if you're 80?
Great point.
Your grandma, your grandpa.
You're retired.
What if you're 80? Yeah, and the victims of the crash who died don't have adequate life insurance, for example.
Yeah.
They don't have
which
some
most
sort
people
of a payout.
don't.
Yeah. In Tennessee, I did some research on it. And Greg Scortis, you're welcome. I'm doing your job for you here. I did the research on the Tennessee law. Greg Scortis, our legal analyst, on the line with us as we talk about this. He's a former prosecutor, now a defense attorney. I know you have both prosecuted drunk drivers and also defended them, and you've seen the victims as well and what this does to them. And in Tennessee, let me just hit on a couple of things. When they implemented this law at the beginning of this year, they gave some guidelines to the judge who, will ultimately rule on the amount for child support. And one of the things that they're required to take into account is the standard of living to which that child has become accustomed to. And then also reasonable work-related child care expenses of the surviving parent. They say parent, so husband, wife, killed, in a car accident or in a drunk driving accident, and there's one who survives, they'll get the child support too. So this law is really articulated, as you would say, quite well. I mean, it really spells it out for the judge. What do you think about it?
Yeah, and I agree, Debbie. And in fact, we already have laws related to child support and the Uniform Child Support Act that deals with the needs of the child, the standard of living that they had lived prior to the time the parents got divorced, or in this case, prior to the time one of the parents was killed by a drunk driver. And so you can plug the perpetrator's income into a formula and come up with a child support amount that, like Dave said, could continue for many years. I mean, if you think about a child who's left fatherless at the age or motherless at the age of 1 or 2, the perpetrator could very well be on the hook for child support for 16, 17 years.
How long, or what is typical for somebody to be in jail? Because the News Nation report did clarify and said that the individual, the guilty party, wouldn't be responsible for these payments until they got out of jail. I'm not quite sure how much time is typical for someone to serve.
That's a great question, Dave. In Utah, and most states are very similar, a drunk driver who causes the death of another would be convicted of a felony, and it's a vehicular homicide. Some states might call it negligent homicide or reckless homicide, but it would carry certainly a prison term of years, not weeks or months, but it would be several years. And of course, there would be no obligation to pay child support during that time, but it may be accruing. It may be generating more and more and more, so that when the perpetrator gets out of jail, they'll have a pretty significant debt owed.
Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst, talking about this law that's taking hold across the nation where judges can, as part of a drunk driver's sentence, apply child support to whoever's taking care of the kids. They'd get child support. The child was 18 if the drunk driver killed the child's parents. And this is taking hold. So it sounds like to me like we have something similar in Utah for drunk drivers where they're forced or ordered to pay child support. Do we already have this law in place, Greg?
No. I didn't explain that very well, Debbie. We already have laws in place that set the amount of child support that a person would pay in a divorce situation.
Yes.
And what I was saying was that those guidelines could easily be adopted. Like you said, the state of Tennessee had some pretty strict guidelines. And so you can just plug the perpetrator's name and income into the same matrix that a divorced person would be used, and that would be how a child support would be figured out. I'm just trying to think of ways that it would be easy to calculate the amount.
To practically make it work.
So we don't have this law here. We could. I like this law. I like that Dave found this story on News Nation, and I like that there's a grandmother out there who's been in this situation, who is actually trying to do something to help other families. Do you think there's an appetite? You work in the courts. Do you think there's an appetite for this kind of law?
Oh, absolutely. You can bet that this will be one of the items on the Utah legislature's agenda next winter, February, when they meet. I mean, this is a law that's taking effect in a lot of different states. It's already in Tennessee, Texas, Maine, Kentucky. It looks like Missouri's about to enact it. So it's just a matter of time before it comes to Utah, and we have a similar law here, I believe.
Greg, in your experience as an attorney, having been through several of these types of cases, is a harsh punishment for something like this, is that a good deterrent? Do you believe that people that are drinking and thinking about getting in the cars, do you think that this would all, go through their head and actually deter them?
I don't know, Dave. I mean, that's the million-dollar question. We keep making tougher and tougher laws on DUIs. We've lowered the legal limit. We've made jail mandatory. We're talking about fines, restitution, other penalties, and we still have the drinking problem. And I don't know how we're going to address it in America, but it's not just Utah. It's not just Salt Lake County. It's nationwide. And hopefully things like this will continue to make a dent and start making some people think twice before they get behind the wheel of a car, knowing that there are huge financial consequences as well as jail and probation.
Greg Skordas, thank you for joining us, KSL legal analyst.
It sounds like, we just learned that Utah doesn't have the law like this, like what's catching hold across the nation, where drunk drivers are being held accountable to pay child support for surviving children of victims. and that it could catch hold here. And maybe it should catch hold. I can see where you're going with that comment, Dave, about, and that question that you had, Greg, of whether this really does resonate, because with all of the publicity surrounding drunk driving and the horrific consequences surrounding drunk driving that we've seen for years and years and years, we still have the problem.
Well, the numbers you pointed out early on, you said there were 3,000, was it crashes a year?
Yeah.
Involving DUI, not fatal crashes, but crashes in general.
77 fatal crashes in Utah in the year 2021. You know, statistics are a little bit lagging, but it's at 77 fatalities involved in DUI crashes in 2021.
But every crash has the potential of
100%.
So we're talking thousands and thousands here in the state of Utah. So even though we have a very low legal limit for alcohol, 0.05, it's not changing things.
Next, let's meet Vivek Ramaswamy. He is surging in the polls in a comfortable third place in the GOP race for president, behind Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis.
I've got fresh legs. I'm Trump in 2015 and then some, because I'm not just doing A, I have fresh legs. B, I'm younger, reach the next generation. I think that's an important part of this.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories. For the first time, parents and doctors have a treatment that could help their young kids fight RSV before they get sick. The FDA just approved a drug made by AstraZeneca called Beyfortus after studies showed it reduced kids' risk of catching RSV by between 70 and 75%. ABC's medical unit reporter Tony Salzman says it gives kids the antibodies it needs to fight the virus.
It works like a vaccine, it walks like a vaccine, it talks like a vaccine, but technically this is a monoclonal antibody. Some folks may remember from COVID, these were some treatments that were used.
The virus puts 58,000 kids under 5 in the hospital every year. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. In Hollywood, actors and writers are lining up outside of major studios as the historic strike continues. WGA member Frederick Leach was on the picket line in Hollywood Monday.
I mean, we all want to be back at work, but we're also willing to be here as long as it takes.
For many of those writers and actors, they're demanding higher pay and AI protections. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is out with groundbreaking dates for 2 new temples in the U.S. The Modesto, California temple groundbreaking set for October 7th. Church officials will break ground on the Fort Worth, Texas temple on October 28th. The events will be broadcast live to people living in those temple districts. Your money at this moment. The Dow has been on a run since the opening bell this morning and is up 352 points now, just above 1 full percent of gains and closing in on 35,000. The S&P is also up about 14, which is 0.3. The NASDAQ giving back some of the gains from yesterday. It's down almost 30. Coming up, scattered thunderstorms, and it's going to be hot. We'll check your full forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:34.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
I remember when Connecticut water softeners came into my home and talked to me, because my wife and I were trying to figure out, is that something we want to invest in? A lot of times people think, oh, you just love your Connecticut water softener because they gave you a free one. No, I paid for it just like you guys. Same price and everything. So my experience is exactly the same experience that you would have. So they came into my home. They showed us the difference that soft water would make. It really broke it down and explained all the places that soft water touch our homes. So it's the showers you take and the baths, the dishes that you do, the laundry, the expensive appliances. It really is a crucial part of your home and how it runs and keeping it healthy. So that's why my wife and I decided, let's do it. Let's make the investment, and we've absolutely loved it. I remember they said, yeah, you'll know the first time you take a shower, you'll be able to feel the difference. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. It feels great, keeps your skin soft and hydrated. So if you're interested, give Connecticut of Utah a call, 801-576-8600, 801-576-8600, or check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hello.
Hi, I'm
Mr. Sparky.
What gave it away? The fancy tool belt? How about the big red truck?
Actually,
yes.
You're on time.
That's our motto. We're on time. You'll see her. The repair is free.
You rhymed. That's cute. Are you always available?
24/7.
24/7.
I don't sleep much. So what seems to be the problem?
Well, my toddler plugged the dog into the light socket.
Yeah, I see your house is blinking like a pinball machine.
Can you fix it?
The house or the dog?
The house.
Well, I'm Mr. Sparky. If it's electrical,
you
I
can fix it.
You betcha.
From a small electrical problem to new lights to smart home services, generators to whole house surge protection, and everything electrical in between. Call America's on-time electrician. Mr. Sparky is fully licensed to install or repair any electrical work. Just call 888-8-SPARKY.
Hold on, this is where we bring in the singers.
You don't have to put up with any malarkey. Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Time again for a look at traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Len, how are we looking?
Yeah, we're looking at a pretty good flow right now. Utah County, though, we have a crash northbound I-15 at Lehigh on the left shoulder. The backlog starts at SR 92 up to the crash about 46 north, and swinging out to of Utah County and up to a crash southbound I-15 at 23 into north on the left shoulder. Looks like that's gone now, and out near Heber City, we're seeing construction constrict the drive as you approach Kearns Boulevard, and then further south as you make your way toward Jordanelle State Park. Use Superior Water and Air for all your HVAC and plumbing needs. Call 974-9090 or visit superiorwaterandair.com. Superior Water and Air, we got this. Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
Quick look at the weather here. Things not quite as hot as it has been. We'll make it to 99, which, there's still going to be a couple of places that probably get to the century mark. And then chance of record temps, 104 Saturday and Sunday, 20% chance of showers this afternoon, but it's warm out there. 88 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
The Race for the White House, special coverage on KSL News Radio.
According to the United States Constitution, there are three requirements to be President of the United States. Natural-born citizen. You have
We're hungry for.
You have to be born here. You live here for You have to have lived here for 14 years. Be at least 35 years old to be president of the United States. 30. Okay.
It always amazed me that it's basically just 3 things. Like that's not a huge requirement.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this dark horse for the White House, and his name is Vivek Ramaswamy. He's 37 years old, and he checks all those boxes.
Yeah.
37.
Yeah, his parents immigrated from India, and he's lived here. He was born here, obviously. He's lived here his entire life, I believe. There are 11 major GOP candidates right now. A lot of these folks we know, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence. We've talked about these folks. But Vivek right now, he's the red-hot candidate, at least not named Donald Trump. Donald Trump is by far and away the leader. But then it was Ron DeSantis, and then everybody else was kind of 2-3 percentage points. Well, Vivek just cracked the double digits. He, in a recent poll by Echelon, he hit 10% of the vote. Ron DeSantis is only at 16. So as DeSantis is coming down, Vivek is rising.
And that's why we're talking about him today. His star is rising. And I don't know a lot about this guy. And I thought, well, this is a good time to learn more about him. So we know he's rich. And that's not one of the requirements in the U.S. Constitution, by the way. You don't have to have money. Very successful entrepreneur. Was a biotech CEO, net worth of $630 million.
Thanks, Forbes.
Yeah.
we do like to know how much these guys are worth. And the reason this matters, and the reason rich matters, and, maybe it shouldn't, but rich lets you start and run a campaign while the fundraising catches up. So what he's been able to do, according to 538, I read this, 538, they conduct all these national polls. They reported that he's already loaned over $10 million to his own campaign. So when you're a no-name and you're trying to drum up some interest and support, you got to have some seed money. Mm-hmm. And when you're rich, you can loan your campaign this money. And that's what he's done. He's loaned $10 million of his own money to the campaign. And now that he's gotten popular and he started raising money, now it's way easier. If you're coming in at 10% of the vote, if you're number 3, fundraising becomes much easier.
But he has this really weird way, a weird pitch for fundraising, which we're not going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes. But when you alerted me to this odd way he's fundraising, and it is odd. You got to stick around for the discussion on that one because it's like, what are you doing?
Debbie, it's going to resonate here in Utah.
It's
got a little multi-level marketing flair to it.
It's the worst idea ever. So if you decide to jump on board and help this guy out, this will be the fastest way for you to lose friends. Stay tuned for that. This guy is everywhere. We're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. He's third in terms of polling behind Donald Trump and DeSantis for the GOP nomination. And he's everywhere. He tweets like crazy.
Yeah. He's nonstop.
Yeah, he'll show up for just about any media interview. Even a contentious interview with CNN's recently fired Don Lemon.
I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white, doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
The content of the ideas.
If you're going to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way.
To Tim Pool, who's an American political commentator as well, to his podcast.
I've got fresh legs. I'm Trump in 2015 and then some, because I'm not just doing A, I have fresh legs. B, I'm younger. Reach the next generation. I think that's an important part of this.
And in the last few years, Ramaswamy has been on Fox News over 110 times. Here's KSL at Night host Leah Murray. Her thoughts on his massive media presence.
He's been omnipresent in the media, and I think media types like myself like him because he's fun to watch, and he's young, and he's engaging.
And Debbie, he has a million ideas. He had like a 12-point plan of what he would do, executive orders he would sign on day one. In fact, one of the first things he said he would do was regarding former President Donald Trump.
On January 20th, 2025, if I'm elected the next U.S. president, to pardon Donald J. Trump for these offenses in this federal case.
He's already stepping in that arena.
Yeah. He's very complimentary of the former president. Again, he has so many ideas. There's nothing he doesn't have an opinion on.
Okay, we got to get this part in, the reform. And Leah Murray talked about this, reforming the IRS and FBI and the Federal Reserve.
So we've got agencies that everyone's annoyed with all the time. So you've got the IRS, which is the thing that takes your tax money. We've got the FBI, which is the law enforcement agency of the federal government. We've got the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the federal government. And a lot of people are frustrated. So if your interest rates went up and you couldn't buy a house, it's the Federal Reserve you're angry with. So to a certain extent, going after these agencies and saying he's going to reform the Fed, basically he's saying they're going to have to get back to what they're supposed to be doing as a central bank. He would like to eliminate the FBI and the IRS, basically seeing those agencies as the way you weaponize is the words that he uses, how you weaponize agencies in America, that the FBI and the IRS have been used to do that. And so he's going to get rid of them. Like how we solve that problem is just not have those agencies.
Yeah, get rid of the IRS, the FBI, reform the Fed. He even talked about possibly including the presidential physical fitness as a requirement to get into college, or at least on the application, that should be measured. Yeah. How fast can you run a mile? How many pull-ups can you do? How many push-ups and sit-ups?
Does he have a plan for people who have disabilities?
I'm sure. Debbie, he has a plan for everything. And he's like, this isn't an official campaign promise, but it's just an idea I had. He tweets very much like the former president in the sense that it's a stream of consciousness type of tweeting. He's not as inflammatory and name-cally as the former president. But when we come back, Deb, I want to talk about another one of his revolutionary ideas. Maybe it's because he's this hotshot entrepreneur, but he has a new idea about fundraising that should absolutely resonate with folks here in Utah. You know this
wild.
Game plan.
It's wild.
You know this game plan, and you can make a bunch of money.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
The name's Osborne, Josh Osborne, and I'm so excited to announce our 00 summer sale here at Volkswagen Southtown.
Summers are for thrills, chills, and hot deals. Get a new high-tech VW for nothing down and no payments for 90 days. Our 00 agents are standing by to make sure you pay nothing down and have no payments for 3 months, so you can achieve your top secret mission this summer.
Come see why we're Utah's #1 Volkswagen dealer. Get to VWSouthtown.com.
2022 VW rankings. Financing through VCI on select models OAC. See dealer for details.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Grainger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you with supplies and solutions for every industry and 24/7 customer support. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Quality, speed, value for your money, and $1,000 off any roof replacement. That's the IWC advantage. IWC, Intermountain West Contractors, delivers on the things most important to you when it comes time to replace your roof. There could be a dozen different reasons why your roof needs replacement, but just one answer to the problem: IWC. With IWC, you get quality because roof replacement is their specialty, and each job comes complete with the best warranties from the most trusted roofing material manufacturer in America. You get speed because IWC understands your time is valuable. In most cases, they can replace an entire roof in just one day. And with IWC, there's the value of knowing they use top-tier quality materials in every installation and deliver it all at an affordable price. And now, for a limited time, save $1,000 on a roof replacement project. Visit IWCroofing.com or call 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690.
Did you know people travel to Logan from all over the country to see performances by Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater? Why? It starts with 300 professional local and nationwide artists and staff coming together to create magical performances. First, Lohengrin, a mysterious knight, sails into town on a swan to rescue the lovely Elsa, who has been falsely accused of murder. The knight goes, "Don't ask me my name." Elsa goes, "Okay, I won't. Wait, what's your name?" Everything goes downhill from there. The plot's kind of weird, but the music is stunning, and it's only ever been performed 5 times in the United States. Next, Aida the opera version and Aida the Broadway version. See them both. So, Radames is captain of the Egyptian army. He's supposed to marry the pharaoh's daughter, but instead falls in love with Aida, the queen of the country he captured. They can't live without each other, so they don't, because they're sentenced to death and die in each other's arms. There's also Broadway's Oliver, the classic Our Town, plus concerts and more. Utah students from public and private schools get a free ticket to any or all performances and concerts this year. Don't miss out. UtahFestival.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, a fire near Flaming Gorge has now grown to 100 acres and is not contained. Second, the FDA is signing off on a treatment that reduces the risk of children getting RSV. And third, in Hollywood, actors and writers are lining up outside of a major studio as the historic strike continues. We're going to look for a high today of 99 degrees, and it's jumped up to 88 now in Salt Lake City. Let's get back over to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
We're learning a lot more right now about the dark horse candidate on the GOP ticket. At least he's vying for the Republican nomination. His name is Vivek Ramaswamy, and we're going to talk about his, I think it's just a wild fundraising idea that if you want to lose friends, you need to jump on board. If you want to never be invited to family dinners again, you got to jump on board. He's moving up in the polls, just cracked double digits, just behind Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis. And I think he could land on the GOP debate stage next month.
Yeah. I think this is a candidate that has all sorts of momentum right now. When it comes to campaigning, it is all about the money. And Ramaswamy is doing well. This last quarter, he raised nearly $8 million. Now, he's loaned, I just saw it, about $15 million of his own money to the campaign. He's looking to do even more as well. But really, the key to running a presidential campaign is you got to have fundraising. You've got to have a lot of money. A lot of your friends, family, and supporters, they got to chip in if you're going to do this. And not by the tens of millions, hundreds of millions. That's what it takes to win a campaign.
And he needs your help.
Side hustle. Side hustle opportunity, Deb.
He posts this video on social media, and he's in like a T-shirt. It looks like he's holding his phone himself. Like he doesn't have a deep campaign staff helping him with this video. And he pitches this plan, and he's really been transparent with this really unique idea when it comes to fundraising. Don't be dissuaded from it just because I think it's ick. It is pretty simple. If you're Dave Noriega and you raise money for Vivek, you get to keep 10%.
If you're going to break up a cartel, that's what he calls it, a cartel, what you need to do is kind of change the way you run the money. So the Vivek kitchen cabinet team basically promotes peer-to-peer relationships to get small dollar donations and bundling. So if you bring in money, you will earn 10% per donation. So instead of having big donors, right, like he's kind of revisiting the whole campaign finance, right? If I'm going to invest money and time, I'm going to get compensation back from Vivek Ramaswamy for doing so. It's a little kind of multi-level, those pyramid schemes, multi-level selling schemes where basically there's a personal dashboard, you track your progress. If you bring in more friends, you get more incentives. There's like swag that you can get. But it's a really interesting way to do campaign finance. And campaign finance, FEC people are saying it's not illegal. So we're going to watch how that plays out.
Ew. That was Leah Murray, by the way. She's host of KSL at Night. Ew.
Why ew?
So it just, can you imagine? Okay, just picture yourself showing up to a backyard barbecue. So, summer's in full swing. Your buddy down the street's having a backyard barbecue, and you walk in with this sales pitch to raise money for a guy that, quite frankly, a lot of people don't know, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
Running for president. Hey, let me tell you about his platform. Let me explain what he's all about. And by the way, if you give a donation through me, I get to keep 10%. But you get nothing. Wait, that just feels icky. To me, it seems like the fastest way to lose friends and not be invited to the family backyard barbecue again. Right? I mean,
this isn't Tupperware, Debbie.
No,
it's
worse.
It's a campaign.
Listen, I've been to Tupperware parties, Dave. I've been to all the parties. And this is, you're right, it's not. It's worse. Would you
Political
do it?
donations, would I donate or would I actually try to raise the money?
Would you be
would
you be involved in the MLM, the multi-level marketing to get this guy elected?
Okay, two things. Number one, it is a business opportunity. I think a true business opportunity, and not unlike a salesperson gets a commission on whatever they sell for a company. That's exactly what this is. So it doesn't surprise me that it comes from an entrepreneur that knows how to make money, raise money, manage money. This makes a lot of sense. When somebody is in a campaign, aren't they just donating their time anyway? The grassroots efforts that are happening, you're knocking on doors, you're pitching your candidate. We do that anyway.
But just doesn't it feel like a layer of ick?
No.
When you get to keep 10%.
No.
And maybe it doesn't here because maybe we're more accustomed to the multi-level marketing.
Utah loves an MLM.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And that's a true story. So you don't I would tell you would have to disclose it, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like I get to pocket 10% of whatever your donation
Well,
is.
I don't know. I don't know if our sales folks are walking in and saying, "Hey, whatever advertising you buy on KSL News Radio, I get to keep X amount of dollars." I don't think that's important. I think what you're doing is you say, "Hey, I'm raising money for this candidate that I believe in." And then if you get to keep a little on the side, he's very open about it. This is totally transparent. You can absolutely say, hey, I get to keep 10% of it, which is kind of awesome. But really, the idea behind this is to support this candidate. Now, I think some people maybe would do it just as a business opportunity to make some money. But largely, I would think these are folks that believe in his campaign and is in his running.
We've been talking about the number 3 GOP candidate in the race for the White House. His name is Vivek Ramaswamy. He's been on the media circuit. He is certainly no stranger to network news and also to podcasts.
I've got fresh legs. I'm Trump in 2015 and then some, because I'm not just doing A, I have fresh legs. B, I'm younger. Reach the next generation. I think that's an important part of this.
And he's 37 years old. He's 37 years old. So you look at the GOP candidates, and you have Donald Trump, who's 77 years old, I believe, right now. And then on the other extreme, Ramaswamy is 37. Ron DeSantis is in his 40s. So you have, as far as age goes, this huge mix. And some people really value youth and exuberance and excitement, outsiders. And he checks a lot of boxes.
Does he have any Does he have any
No.
guidelines at all for the people that are going to be out peddling this? Give Vivek $100 through me, and I keep 10%, and the campaign gets 90%.
Yeah.
Is he have any, is there going to be a background check?
Yep.
Is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, you have to apply on his website. You have to apply to become one of these.
So you're like a contracted employee?
Exactly.
Is that it?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. You would become a contracted employee
and you
of the
taxes
campaign.
on that.
Yeah. Yep.
But he wants to do away with the IRS. This is just also.
He doesn't want to do away with taxes.
This is all so weird to me. We'll bring Derek Brown, former chair of the GOP here in Utah, on the line in the 10 o'clock hour to ask him what he thinks about this unique fundraising plan. Next, we're going to go live to the southern border. That's where News Nation's Allie Bradley is standing by. And she just tweeted this out. 85,000 unaccompanied migrant children released into the U.S., and they don't know where they're at.
FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. RSV is a disease that many people think isn't serious. Little kids get it and old people get it, but it does kill people. And for the first time, parents and doctors have a treatment that could help their young children fight RSV before they get sick. The FDA just approved a drug made by AstraZeneca called Beyfortus after studies show it reduced the risk of kids catching RSV by about 75% or so. ABC Medical Unit reporter Sony Salzman says it gives kids antibodies they need to fight the virus.
It works like a vaccine, it walks like a vaccine, it talks like a vaccine, but technically this is a monoclonal antibody. Some folks may remember from COVID, these were some treatments that were used.
58,000 kids under 5 go to the hospital with RSV every year. Officials say lightning caused a wildfire near the Flaming Gorge Reservoir. It's forcing some campers to evacuate their sites. Utah Fire Info estimates more than 5 acres on fire near the Mustang campground with 0% containment. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Special counsel Jack Smith has informed former President Donald Trump that he's a target in the investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. That could bring an indictment for the former commander-in-chief. While likely to include January 6th, ABC's political director Rick Klein notes these possible charges could include everything that happened after Election Day in 2020.
The charge is a lot bigger than January 6th. The original charge for the special counsel, as delivered by Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, was all of the efforts to interfere with the lawful and peaceful transfer of power. That means basically everything after election night and leading up to January 6th and maybe all the way through January 20th, the day of the inauguration.
And that's ABC's Rick Klein. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average having a strong up day, 374 points in the green right now. And the NASDAQ is up 40 points right now. And our KSL weather, we've got some partly cloudy skies, but that won't keep the temperature from approaching the century mark. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And let's face it, it's time to update the look of your home's exterior. When was that thing built? In the 50s, 70s, 90s, the 2000s? Well, it's looking like it. Faded siding, drafty windows, leaky gutters. It's time to take action now. RGS Exteriors has been taking Utah homes from drab to fab for over 5 generations. We only use the highest quality materials, like James Hardy siding and gutter topper gutter covers. You will be blown away by how much different and better and awesome your house can look. Your neighbors will be jealous, your home value will go up, and most of all, you're going to love it. Everything we do comes with our industry-leading 10-year everything guarantee, so you can sleep like a baby, knowing if anything goes wrong, you're 100% covered. For a free estimate on your gutters, windows, siding, or anything on your outside of your home, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
You ever notice when someone takes a sip out of a water bottle and they find it to be really good, they always seem to look at the label. Folks just can't help themselves when they take a sip out of a little spring water bottle. Well, there's a reason it's called nature in a bottle. No chemicals, no additives. It's just pure, clean, healthy water from a family-owned and operated bottled water company where that little spring is nestled in a beautiful canyon in Bear Lake, Utah. Now, just imagine the reaction from your customers if your logo was on that recyclable bottle of pure goodness. In the advertising world, they call those impressions. Of course, when you drink Little Spring water, you'll just call it impressive. Let Little Spring Water put your company logo on a bottle and watch what happens. Just visit littlespringwater.com to get a quote. It's actually quite reasonable. littlespringwater.com.
Losing weight is more than just a number on the scale. Boy, did I learn that. I started the SOTA weight loss program a year and a half ago. I lost 34 pounds. And yes, watching the number on the scale go down was really great.
Mm-hmm.
But they helped me with a lot of other things, like why did I binge eat? Why did I used to sit down and not be able to stop if I started eating Wheat Thins? I'd eat the whole box of Wheat Thins. Why did I do that? And because ultimately, you're only going to be healthy if you can change the way you look at food. Your relationship with food has to change.
Yeah.
And SOTA weight loss helps you with the whole picture to help you get healthy.
Well, and heaven knows we need all the help we can get at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But mental clarity and focus also becomes important for that weight loss journey. My daughter lost 42 pounds, and she's now in the maintenance phase, which simply means that she checks in with her nutritionist every couple of weeks just to make sure she's on track. They can help you or somebody in your family as well. Go to SOTAweightloss.com. It's spelled SOTA, stands for state of the art. Think Tim and Amanda. SOTAweightloss.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Len Thomas.
Coming up out of Lehigh with a crash northbound I-15 at 46 North, and multiple vehicles on the left shoulder taking a left lane as well. Traffic slowly getting by on the right. Otherwise, in the Salt Lake Valley, just a short stretch of minor slowing southbound at the South Interchange. When it comes to trusted, affordable auto care, nobody does it better than Burt Brothers Tire and Service. Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather still hot, but we could see some scattered thunderstorms today and tomorrow. Today's high 99, 97 tomorrow, back up to 104 by the weekend. And right now, 86 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Allie Bradley is on the border, the southern border for News Nation, and she is calling the show right now. When you see things like she tweeted out this morning reminding us that the federal government has reportedly lost track of at least 85,000 unaccompanied migrant children released into the United States. And there's this push now to call on volunteers, at least in the one area of the Arizona sector. But when you see things like that, you think, okay, we got to do something, right?
How in the world do you lose track of 85,000 kids? That fundamentally, that must be such a chaotic disaster down at the southern border that we've lost 85,000 kids. We don't know where they're at, who they're staying with, if they're being taken care of.
News Nation's southwestern correspondent, Allie Bradley, good morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning, you guys. Obviously, a really, really tough topic to dig into early in the morning, but right now there are more than 6,400 kids in HHS custody, and it's a really tough one to dig into because we don't have access to a lot of information, simply because they're children. They're minors, right? Our country protects juveniles, and so as soon as children come across that southern border unaccompanied, they are scooped up and shipped off to HHS custody. They are not even on the docket on the ground when it comes to Border Patrol. When Del Rio, the crisis happened underneath that bridge, I remember having a conversation with the sheriff and saying, where are the children who are unaccompanied? Because statistically, there has to be some. And he said, as soon as they come over, they are gone. We don't know what happens with them. We don't know numbers. We know nothing. And so it's really, really kept close to the vest. And so we don't have a lot of information. But the fact of the matter is, Senator Marsha Blackburn was talking with Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas back in March and pressing him and saying 85,000 children in HHS custody have gone missing. And Alejandro Mayorkas said that is unacceptable, kind of reaffirming that statistic. And so that's something that is circulating once again because the Sound of Freedom movie has brought a lot of attention to the situation regarding child trafficking. Now, when it comes to families and children, where they went, who they're with, I will tell you this, in the conversations I've had with NGOs and Border Patrol, these individuals, once they leave custody from an NGO or Border Patrol, they are not checked in on, you guys. They are not followed up with. I have asked NGOs, do you call these families and make sure they got to their location? Do you make sure they got to the safe destination and they're not just put right back into the cartel scheme of things? They do not. They say sometimes they follow up, the families will follow up and say thank you to the NGOs. So that right there tells you that we don't know where a lot of people are going. And the sponsorship thing, a lot of times those sponsors are set up down in Venezuela or down in Central America. And by the time that Border Patrol calls the sponsors, they will answer. But when the migrant calls for help or for a bus ticket, that sponsor will not answer. So that is a reality that's happening. Border Patrol tells me oftentimes they'll look at these addresses that the sponsors are at, and it's a vacant parking lot. And that's the reality right now. So we don't know where a lot of people, and yes, 85,000 children apparently have gone.
Do we have any idea the ages of children that are crossing?
We don't. I mean, they could be 17-year-olds, right? We consider those to be unaccompanied minors as well. But the reality is this, under the Trump administration and under the Biden administration, I'm looking at a memo from DHS in 2020 that shows that rapid DNA testing is not happening for children under 14. So that isn't happening under this administration either. And then in May, their contract with said rapid DNA testing company who was administering those tests for familial DNA testing, that contract expired in May. So I do have emails out to DHS and to HHS asking what protocols are now in place or what procedures they are using or if they're doing any DNA testing whatsoever. Because from what my sources tell me and what I know from the last 2 years of covering this, children under 14 have never been tested for DNA and biometrics, which includes fingerprinting, retina scanning, and face imprinting. So you aren't having those things done. Now, under the Trump administration, they did do a test where they look to see how many of those individuals were actually with their correct families, the ones that were tested. They found that around only 19% of those kids were not with the correct families. Now, some are arguing that even 1% is too high, right? So you look at 19% of children based on what PolitiFact was kind of fact-checking because Ken Cuccinelli had said it was 30%, which is a stat we hear often. But it's more so around 19% according to these statistics. And with that said, again, you go back to now, we aren't doing any DNA testing based on the expiration of that contract.
Ellie Bradley is with News Nation. She's been at the southern border for 2 years, and she's been reporting on it for that long, reporting on it for us quite often. And Ellie, my understanding is there's a particular area of the Arizona sector along the border that's going to be calling or has called on volunteers. What does that look like? Paint us a picture about that.
Yeah, so right now, you know, we have been talking about how the numbers have gone down from around the Title 42 end when we saw a surge of 10,000 people a day. Now we're still seeing around 4,000 a day, but we are still seeing that steady increase. And that means we are seeing a lot more people coming in and self-surrendering, needing to be transported and processed. So that is tying up more agents, and that's happening in multiple sectors. It's happening in the El Paso sector. It's happening in the Del Rio sector, which is where Eagle Pass is, which is where we see a lot of those really big groups come across. And it's also happening in the Tucson sector, which is really interesting because the Tucson sector covers a massive area of Arizona. There's a Yuma sector and the Tucson sector. It's only split in two. Texas has, I think, 7 sectors for some perspective. So when people need help, what the agency will do is kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. They will put out an email to agency-wide, to agents saying, is anybody willing to leave their post and deploy to another sector to help process and transport? So that's what's happening now in the Tucson sector. They're so inundated with people being needing transport and processing for their asylum claims that they have to call in additional resources. Now, agents I talk to in these other sectors are saying there's no way we can lose manpower to go help the Tucson sector. So right now, we've been seeing the Tucson sector actually do what are called street releases, but then the community comes in and intercepts. So we've seen down in Douglas, Arizona, which is a tiny community of 16,000 people, hundreds of migrants released daily, multiple times a day. But then a bus from an NGO will come in and transport them into Tucson to an NGO to then get them to their next destination. Now, there is talk that they are doing that throughout the state of Arizona, where they are doing these kind of releases to get them out of these border communities. But again, they don't have the manpower to transport and process and also secure the border. That's the problem. Last week, these Border Patrol agents weren't even able to help the local sheriff. The problem with that, you guys, is the local entities, local police, local sheriffs, they cannot respond to immigration-related issues. So they have a big issue with human trafficking and human smuggling. So you get those vehicles that have migrants in them that are being ushered into the country from a smuggling driver. Say Cochise County Sheriff pulls them over, Border Patrol is not going to respond to help them. So they're either going to have to let those migrants go, or they're going to be tasked with taking their manpower to transport them to a viable location to be processed or transported. So that's the mess that's happening down in the Tucson sector. But again, they're inundated in El Paso, who has more apprehensions than the Tucson sector, and so does the Del Rio sector. So they are all dealing with a massive influx right now, but it's interesting because we're all kind of talking about how the numbers are going down.
Allie Bradley, thank you for joining us from News Nation reporting. And this was just a shocking number that Health and Human Services have reportedly lost track of 85,000 unaccompanied migrant children that have been released in the United States.
Let's go now from the southern border in Arizona to Washington, D.C. Former President Donald Trump releasing this morning that he knows he is the target of a special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. At the same time, he's also making plans to increase presidential powers if he gets reelected.
Dave and Dujanovic. Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news.
We're celebrating Pioneer Day early. Tomorrow at the Days of 47 Rodeo is KSL Night. Enter for your chance to win tickets to the rodeo. Text the word rodeo to 57500. That's rodeo to 57500. And happy Pioneer Day from KSL News Radio.
Just about every family has been through an experience, whether it's a family member, a friend, a loved one, that is struggling with addiction. Renaissance Ranch wants to help you out, and if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're not quite sure what to do, Renaissance Ranch offers free family support services. They do it through weekly online classes. They're open to the public, and you can attend as many of these classes as you wish. At Renaissance Ranch, they want to help create this healing, hopeful environment, especially for families, because they know when families are involved in the recovery process, the research has shown this, the chances of a much more positive outcome is just greatly enhanced. So if you're interested in learning more and participating in one of these online classes, or just being present and listening to other folks that have been through or are going through the same thing you are, give them a look. RenaissanceRanch.com is the website, and it's the best way to find these free online classes. Again, open to the public. Go to RenaissanceRanch.com.
At Your Service Pros Heating and Air recently received the following review on Yelp. I'm so glad I got a second opinion from At Your Service Pros. They identified the same items of work to be done, but gave me a much more realistic quote. I'll definitely use them again. Thanks, Seth. We're glad we were able to do the repairs for less than half of what the other company quoted him. There's a reason we're one of the highest rated companies on both Google and Yelp. If you want a free second opinion on your HVAC repairs, give us a call at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO.
Troy, can we keep the Bitches RV Customer Appreciation Month sale going longer?
It has been pretty epic, but it was only supposed to be for June.
We can't stop now. There's still amazing deals out there on new and used RVs.
Employee pricing can't go on forever.
True, but people are getting better in-season deals than ever, and that means a better camping season than ever before, too. Think of the children.
Don't pull the children card on me.
Okay, don't think of the children.
That's worse.
We can help more families camp and keep going with employee pricing on select RVs, 90 days all play no pay OAC, extreme discounts on all 2022s, and our trade anything specials, or not.
Fine. One more month of customer appreciation sale.
Yes, I knew you'd cave.
That was low.
Not as low as these prices.
Bish's RV is extending customer appreciation until July 29th. Get employee pricing on select RVs, 90 days no payments OAC, and more. Only until July 29th at Bish's RV in North Salt Lake and our new location in American Fork, where memories begin.
This could be the start of a break-in.
Stop. This is Simply Safe.
Or the end of one. Introducing 24/7 Lifeguard Protection, only from Simply Safe. Now, monitoring agents can see and speak to intruders through our new indoor camera to help stop crime in real time and for fast police response. Get 20% off any new system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/radio. Advanced home security, 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
With our roots in northern Utah, Holy Cross Hospital has a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
At Holy Cross Hospital, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake. I'm equally honored to care for Northern Utah's vibrant communities. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
How are you? It's Rebecca. Join me and FM 100.3 this Saturday from 11 to 1 at the NPS store at 1600 South Empire Road in Salt Lake. That's npsstore.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, a drug that could keep little kids from getting sick with RSV has been approved by the FDA. Second, a woman from Utah has achieved her goal of climbing the second highest peaks on every continent. Third, former President Trump could wind up facing new charges related to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. He got a letter from the special counsel informing him he was a target of that investigation. 86 degrees and partly cloudy right now in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, you heard it right here on KSL News Radio this morning as news broke during Utah's Morning News that President Trump has been told by the special counsel that he is a target of the January 6th probe into what happened at the U.S. Capitol. And we're going to get live with ABC News in Washington, D.C. in just a moment to give us the latest regarding this. And also the president, the former president, if he's reelected, his plan to expand his powers if he should get back into the White House.
Yeah, the idea of another indictment for the president, the former president, that it could be imminent. That's what his attorneys have said. That is just, it's wild, Deb. It's hard to keep track of all the things that are going on. And then still, what is kind of out there and additional indictments, obviously the one in Georgia. There's so many, it's hard to keep track of them, to be honest.
Thankfully, we have Ann Flaherty, senior national policy reporter for ABC News in Washington, D.C., standing by for us to bring us up to speed on all of the President Trump-related news that's been breaking today. Good morning, Ann.
Hey, good morning. I think you're 100% right. It's very confusing to keep track of all this. I think what to know is that this is the second letter that Jack Smith has sent to former President Trump. Now, Jack Smith is this independent federal prosecutor tapped by the Justice Department
to lead the investigation into Trump's roles into the January 6th Capitol attack and also Trump's handling of classified documents. So that first letter that Trump got, that was last June, and it said, he was under investigation. He was being indicted by a grand jury in Florida for mishandling classified documents. What happened today was the second letter. ABC News has confirmed that Trump has received a letter from Smith again, informing him that he is now the target in another investigation involving his efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
And this is coming from Jack Smith, the same guy that is handling or the investigation with the documents, right?
Yes, absolutely. So two parallel investigations underway. And what this means is that another indictment of the former president could be imminent. So target letters put a suspect on notice that they're facing the prospect of an indictment. It doesn't mean that charges are inevitable. It just means that there is substantial evidence that a crime has been committed. And it also gives the former president an opportunity until Thursday he has to report to the grand jury to testify if he chooses to. Now, sources are telling ABC News we do not expect the former president to appear before a grand jury on this. And, I think worth distinguishing between the two cases, the other one on classified documents, we've spoken with legal experts who say this is a little bit easier to prove. He had the documents at Mar-a-Lago. He was showing them to aides. There's significant evidence of that. This latest investigation, this is a little bit more difficult. It's more substantial. It gets to the heart of democracy, overturning those election results. But it is a little bit more difficult and less clear what exact evidence that they have.
Ann Flaherty, senior national policy reporter for ABC News out of Washington, D.C., joining us this morning as President Trump has announced that he is the target. Didn't he announce that, Ann? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Didn't he make the announcement today that he knows he's the target of this case?
Yeah, so President Trump has acknowledged this letter, and he has called Jack Smith, quote, deranged, and said he is part of the Joe Biden's Justice Department. I think worth noting that Jack Smith is an independent federal prosecutor. He does not have political affiliations. He was tapped by the Justice Department to lead the investigations into Trump's role in the January 6th Capitol attack and the mishandling of classified documents.
Go ahead, Dave.
I saw a report, shifting gears a little bit, and the Trump aides say they want to increase or that Trump wants to increase presidential powers if elected in 2025. What are they talking about?
Yeah, so officials close to President Trump are telling the New York Times over the weekend that they have this plan to govern if he is reelected. And, I think people forget about this, not focusing on just what he's saying that attracts the headlines, but what would he actually do if elected? So, one of the things that they're talking about is concentrating that power in the White House. He's talked about getting rid of civil servants who run the nuts and bolts of government if they don't express loyalty to the president. That's something he tried at the tail end of his past administration and didn't get very far because there are laws against that. The other thing he's talked about that would impact perhaps your operations on radio is he wants to control the FCC directly. The FCC is an independent board. It has a bipartisan board that's appointed by both Republicans and Democrats, and they govern radio stations like yours, television networks like ABC News, and they make rules about how you operate. So critics saying this could be a big shift. It could empower him to cripple media outlets. The FTC is another thing he wants to take control of. That's the independent regulator that sues businesses for things like false advertising. So a lot of this, really trying to come in 2025 and make a big difference to eliminate a lot of the forces that he says are beholden to the Democratic Party.
Are these things, do these fall under the purview of the executive branch, or is this something that he would be doing through, say, executive order?
So this is what is difficult. I mean, people who are close to President Trump and the conservative think tanks, the Heritage Foundation has launched a project called Project 2025, talking about overhauling government. They do believe that they have the authority to do this. Of course, that's going to end up in court. We have three branches of government. That is written into the Constitution. And there is always this tension about what they can do. I mean, just to give you an example, during the Bush administration, Bush aides said, he clearly has the authority to go to war in Iraq without congressional approval. But now we have the student loan forgiveness. The argument was that the president does not have sweeping executive powers, that he needs congressional authority when it comes to spending. So you're always going to have those tensions and those fights that will inevitably end up in court.
Wow.
Ann Flaherty, thank you for joining us, senior national policy reporter for ABC News.
Talking about President Trump speaking, or at least some of his close associates speaking to the New York Times about actions that the president would take if he regains the White House, including more control over the FCC, which what's the right word? Oversees, guides operations, sets rules for radio stations and television stations. I should have said that more eloquently. I've only been in news since 1988. And also the FTC as well, which sues major companies when they rip off your grandma and grandpa, and rip off a number of people, and it holds some sort of a stick over businesses so they operate legally. All of this is news to me, and it's concerning.
Well, I guess I'm not nearly as concerned because of the checks and balances that we do have. The president can say or do whatever he wants. Congress has a lot of power to pass laws and decide for themselves what they want to allow the executive branch to do. But Congress would have to do their job and come together if they think that the president is overstepping his bounds.
Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk again about Vivek Ramaswamy and his plan to raise money for his run for the White House. He's polling quite well. His poll numbers have gone up. He's polling quite well behind President Trump and Ron DeSantis in their runs for the White House. And he's got this plan, is 10%. You go out, the Dave Noriegas of the world go out and go door to door and raise money for Vivek, and in return, Dave gets to keep 10%. So fortunately, we've got the former chair of Utah's Republican Party. He's going to call in about 20 minutes or so and talk to us. I got to ask him. This is one question. It's like, how is this legal? Is this like what we just like a multi-level marketing, and then you bring more people on, and then they get to keep 10%, and on and on and on? So we got a lot to cover on that coming up.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. A woman from Park City making history and breaking records in mountaineering. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit has that story.
It was December 2018 when Jen Drummond survived a horrible car crash with only minor injuries. She told USA Today that 2 years later she climbed Ama Dablam in the eastern Himalayas, and from there she wanted to summit the second highest peaks on each continent. Last month, she completed that goal.
Drummond says she had the support of her family the whole way. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Airlines are warning travelers about a new scam targeting people whose flights have been canceled. This happens when passengers try to Google the airline's customer service number. Teresa Payton, the CEO of Borderless Solutions, says you need to act right away if you think this is happening to you.
If you find yourself in this situation where you have been scammed, time is of the essence.
First, she says you should contact a bank, then the real travel company. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 335 points on the day right now, and the NASDAQ is up 58 points this morning. And our KSL weather looks like hot weather continuing, but cloudy. KSL News Time, 10:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Would you be upset if you lost $111,000 in retirement income? Get this, 96% of Americans, 96% lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a free report, the Social Security Decisions Guide from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. If you've saved at least $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get this free report by calling 801-682-4448. This free report is loaded with critical information that can help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income. So call 801-682-4448. That's 801-682-4448. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go! Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
With the economy the way it is, you're probably staying put. So invest in your home, your number one asset, with beautiful custom replacement windows from Advanced Window Products. They're a local Utah company building beautiful vinyl framed and insulated double pane windows for 37 years right here in Salt Lake City. Advanced Window Products will save you money on your energy bill. Get security features to keep your family safe. And at Advanced Window Products, it's all custom. And the best part? They're local. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So there's no middleman markup. You save on the highest quality windows in Utah. Plus, Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. For a limited time, they offer 60-month 0% financing. And right now, get $2,000 off 10 windows or more. They're working 8 weeks out, so make the call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Len Thomas.
Thank you, Dan. The crash in Lehigh is cleared, but still a little bit of residual northbound slowing on I-15 from the point of the mountain to 46 north. Otherwise, no delays on I-15 in Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber counties. I-80 sailing along nicely in the West Desert past Great Salt Lake and on to the airport and on up to Kimball Junction and all the way to Wyoming. Give your savings a boost with 5% APY on a 12-month certificate from Cypress Credit Union. Learn more at cypresscu.com. I'm Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather's still hot, but we could see some scattered thunderstorms today and tomorrow. Today's high 99, 97 tomorrow, back up to 104 by the weekend. Right now, 88 degrees and mostly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
About 6:30 this morning, our time, the new retail sales report came out for the month of June, and it was really quite a mixed bag. It shows that furniture sales were up in June. Electronic sales were big. Internet sales skyrocketed. But then you get to home improvement stores. Those sales were down. We weren't in department stores as much. We weren't buying as much gas. So it really did turn out to be kind of a mixed bag. It just gives you an idea of where consumers' heads are at. And then I looked up this, saw this story, Dave, on Yahoo Finance, that EV prices, electric vehicle prices in the used car EV category, they're actually collapsing. So not just down, they're collapsing.
It's about time, because they've been so expensive for so long. It's been shocking to me, because you and I have, kind of bandied about this idea of getting EVs. It would be so nice to be able to just say no to the gas station. We've loved that idea. So we've looked, and they're still really, really expensive.
Yeah.
When you look at gas guzzling cars, super cheap, even cars that get pretty good gas mileage. As long as they're gas cars, you can find deals out there. I have yet to find an EV deal in the used or new car market ever.
This will intrigue you. Here's the headline per Yahoo Finance. Used EV prices are collapsing, and Tesla is the reason why.
Okay. Tell me more. Why are we blaming Tesla? The most popular EV in the world?
Because they were the first ones, as you say, through the wall in terms of lowering prices. They lowered prices. I think the price of a Tesla is down 30% year over year. So they have not lowered prices; they've slashed them. And now I read where one analyst said electric vehicle prices are now falling at nearly 10 times the rate of the average used vehicle. So can I get you in an EV today?
Yeah, once they are actually affordable. Because here's the problem. They may be falling at a very, very fast rate. They are still the most expensive used car on the market.
So I looked up Teslas yesterday, and here's part of the problem with used Teslas or used EVs in general. Part of this issue of reason that used Tesla prices are falling so rapidly is not only because interest rates are high to finance a car, but also because you can get such a good deal in air quotes if you consider $38,000 a good deal on a new Tesla, which then that's a Model 3. $38,000. I was shocked because I remember you and I talking about this a few years ago on the show, and I felt like EV prices for new EVs, especially a Tesla, were going to be so far out of reach for me. There was no way I was ever going to be able to get myself in one. Now, $38,000, I know it's still a lot. It's not my cup of tea. I tend to always buy used. I mean, I paid $15,000 for that car I'm driving now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I paid $15,000 for that car. And it's a nice car, So, but that's kind of my jam. But now I'm looking at this EV price of $38,000. I'm like, well, if it can come down a little bit more. But that's part of the problem or it's a good thing for consumers if you're in the used car EV market, is because they're selling more and more of these newer EVs and slashing the prices. There's not many people interested in buying the used EV model.
And another reason that new EVs are so attractive is because they qualify for the federal rebate. So you get $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
If you lease them.
Lease them or buy them, you're going to get thousands of dollars in credits, in tax credits. So how long does it take for a new car to lose value? On top of there's a lot of components, things that go into this. So when you look at the used cars, you're competing against the new car that qualifies for the rebates. The used cars do not.
That's another reason why. And then I was listening to Utah's Morning News and heard that Ford slashed prices too on their trucks. So you've always driven that truck around.
230,000 miles worth.
I didn't want to say it.
An old beater.
Okay. The F-150 Lightning Pro. I have no idea what this truck does. I don't know what it looks like. It has an amazing name, and I like F-150s.
It's a beautiful truck.
They catch my eye when y'all are driving around in those things. $49,000. $49,000. They just slashed the price of those very recently, but then they've got the Platinum Extended, which is $91,000. They dropped that price $6,000. You're never going to buy one of those. Yeah. Forget that. Don't even look at that. Don't even look at that car. But I was like $50,000 for a new. Trucks are so expensive anyway. But is that? Does any of this resonate with you at all?
It's still
You've been
extremely
such a
expensive.
stick in the mud about EVs for so many reasons, and when the prices go down, you're like, oh, now I got another excuse to not to buy one. And I've been trying to kick you out.
You've been trying, yeah.
I try. I thought I had you.
You're still telling me that it's $38,000 here or $49,000 there, Debbie. You want to start talking $15,000? Now we're talking.
Okay. So you're on Team Deb with
this.
If
I'm going to get a used car, I need it to be a used car deal. But electric vehicles have been so popular and such high demand that they continue to be very expensive.
Dave and I talking about the price drop in electric vehicles on the heels of the retail sales report being released this morning. A lot of shopping is slowed at like home centers and department stores, and also at the gas pump. But EV prices also collapsing. There's just been a precipitous drop in the prices of electric vehicles, and particularly in the used car market. They're having a horrible time because they've got too many cars on their hands. They can't sell them, and we're just not out there buying them.
Yeah, because they're too expensive, and that's what they're learning is. When you say they're stacking up, I was listening to a podcast. I'm trying to remember if it was the Wall Street Journal. I believe it was the Wall Street Journal. But they were talking about the typical life of a car on a car lot. And they can move, between 2 weeks and a month. But it's taking 2 and 3 times that to move the electric vehicles, quite frankly, because they're just too expensive. So they're starting to stack up on top of each other.
Is this an area where you would feel comfortable playing Let's Make a Deal?
Let's make a deal. You can have the smart car, Deb. You can just have it.
No, but I mean on the car lot.
You would have to.
Yeah.
But I still don't think, because the car lots can't just slash these prices. They're not making huge money on the vehicles anyway. So what kind of discount can they really give me? Because I'm going to need a $10,000 discount to catch my interest. Because that's about what it is. It's maybe $10,000, $15,000 more than your gas car. So if you want to make that EV change, you're making a significant, you're paying a premium.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-new station in the morning?
It's this one. Weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
When words come out of our mouths and everything sounds fine, no one bats an eye. But if things come out a little jumbled or letters sound different than most, there's speech therapy. But did you know that speech therapy is used for more than just stuttering or disfluency? From articulation to expressive and receptive language to a simple act of swallowing that most of us take for granted, speech therapy can do amazing things for you, your health, and of course your sense of self. That's why Summit Speech Therapy is here. Summit Speech Therapy works with people of all ages, from infants and toddlers who have a difficult time feeding or eating, TBI, stroke, or coma patients, to children and adults with speech problems. So much of it is all related, and Summit Speech Therapy can help. Summit works with all insurance companies as well as private pay options, and the experience can be life-changing. With clinics up and down the Wasatch Front, including Murray, with no long waiting for an appointment. For more, visit summitslp.com. That's summitslp.com.
If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Even though that's an old adage, it's still very true today. And it's especially true of your old 401k. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, asking you to get that old 401k in sight and out of the company you no longer work for. But don't roll it into your new 401k. That could be one of the worst things you do. Of course that's easy. But when has the easiest way ever been the best way? Instead, call Trajan Wealth and learn about all of your options, including a way to earn an upfront bonus of up to 25% for your future income just for rolling it over. That's right. You could earn up to a 25% bonus for your retirement income just for rolling that 401k over with Trajan Wealth. Don't roll that 401k into your new company plan. Don't do it without calling Trajan Wealth first. Call 801-899-7600 or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
I've worked hard to get where I am. I don't cut corners. I see opportunity and make the most of it. And I'm celebrating that success in style by heading to Jerry Seiner Cadillac to get the car I've been working for. They have new XT4, 5, and 6 models in stock and the area's largest selection of certified pre-owned vehicles. I've put in the work and I've earned the luxury that only comes with a Cadillac. If you have too, then it's time to visit Jerry Seiner and experience the Seiner difference.
July marks a time for celebration, our country's independence, and when our ancestors settled in our great state.
Today we celebrate family, friends, honor, and pay respect for those who've lost their lives to provide our freedom. This is the place wants to celebrate Utah, freedom, families, and fun by inviting you to find out what makes this place so special. As they give you a full year of fun for everyone to enjoy. Super Duper Day on July 17th features a devotional with Gail Miller, presented by Sons and Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. Don't miss the newest monument, Pioneers of 1847, honoring the bravery and contributions of African American pioneers. Additional activities include live music, sponsored by Deseret Book the evening of July 22nd, highlighting multicultural music and dance. Utah is a melting pot for world culture and history, making our state and country so great. This is the place to be. This is the fun place for everyone. Visit thisistheplace.org.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
A stranger with a gun fires on 2 teens, shattering lives. But that's only the beginning of this story. Listen to The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a mom from Utah has accomplished something no other woman has done, climbed the second highest peaks on every continent. Second, former President Trump could be facing new charges related to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Third, scammers have been finding ways to rip off people whose flights have been canceled. Right now, 88 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The Race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Let's return to our conversation about the dark horse candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, talking specifically about the way he's designed his fundraising effort. Now, he is in the race on the GOP side. He is behind in terms of polling President Trump and also Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. But his star is rising, as they say in the business.
And I think he's been very, very impressive in a lot of ways. Number one, he is everywhere. If you want him on your show, you know what, Deb? We're going to reach out to him, see if he'll come on our show. And if he says no, we're about the only show he would say no to. He is popping up every podcast, every national news organization has this guy on at any time. So he's been very charming. He's a very good interview, has a lot of really interesting ideas. But ultimately, when you're talking about running for president, you need money. And you need not just a few $100,000 here and there. You need hundreds of millions of dollars. So how is he going to get there?
Yeah.
He has a plan.
He does have a plan. I think it's the quirkiest plan I've ever heard. He wants to enlist the help of the Dave Noriegas of the world and anybody who wants to get out there and get involved in what appears to be kind of like a multi-level marketing.
It's exactly what it is.
Scenario.
Yeah. No. You don't need to couch this, Deb. It's 100% what it is.
It's an MLM, and I guess the product he's selling is him?
Himself.
Okay, so let's paint this picture. He posts this video online, and he's standing there. He's holding it looks like he's holding the cell phone, like he's taking a selfie video by himself. I don't know where his staff is, and he's got this tight brown T-shirt on, and he's talking right into his iPhone, and he says this.
So we're launching a new program today, rather than just paying some members of that political oligopoly to quietly raise money in cloistered professional circles, who get to keep 10% of what they raise. I say, you know what? Anybody should be able to make that money. So I don't care if you're a professional fundraiser or not. If you believe in the message of this campaign, if you believe in reviving our missing national identity, many of you are already helping me anyway. My view is, let me just stop paying the professional class to do this as the sole people who get to make money. Instead, let the people who support me make money as well by raising money for this campaign. God knows we're going to need it from everybody. I'm investing tons of money in this campaign. I've already put $15 million plus of my hard-earned money, and that's just the beginning of the investment we've made. But I want you to be able to participate in what the outsiders are doing as well by raising funds for us. Turns out you can keep 10% of what you make.
I think it's intriguing. I love it. Finally.
Ew. Ew.
Why is it so icky? You know that we fundraise.
Yeah, I just, it's like I'm just gonna send y'all out door to door, and then you're gonna have to explain to the people at the backyard barbecue that you're attending that you get to keep 10%, and if they come on board and they raise money for Vivek, then they get to keep 10%, and the MLM just keeps going on and on.
Debbie's like, the only people I want raising money are the professional fundraisers.
Derek Brown. He's a former chair of Utah's Republican Party, also frequent host of KSL at Night from 7 to 9 weeknights here on KSL News Radio. Do you get the icks from this, or is this a great idea in your view?
Well, I was hoping that I could get Debbie in my downline, but it sounds like that's not going to happen, is it? Well, you know what? Here's the interesting thing. This is one of the reasons Vivek is worth hundreds of millions of dollars and the rest of us aren't, is that he looks at a system that's sort of broken and says, you know what? I can fix this. And I think that's what he's doing, is he's commenting on the fact that he knows that everyone he's running against is doing. I mean, everyone he's running against has got professional, full-time, well-paid fundraisers. And in fact, every member of Congress has one. Every member of the Senate and the House, they've all got them. And so he's basically saying, look, since they've all got them and they're all using them and they're all making 10% of what they raise, hey, let me try something different. And now the funny thing is, I don't think it's going to work because the Federal Elections Commission, the FEC, they've got so many guidelines and rules and regulations that are designed not to help you raise money, but to trick you into doing something wrong, that I just don't think it's going to work in the end. But it's an ingenious idea, and it's more, I think, just it gets people, it gets his name out there, and it sort of showcases him as a guy running who's willing to maybe shake things up a bit, and that maybe is what he wants.
Derek, within hours of him announcing this, they had over 300 applications on their website, because you do have to put in your application, become an official fundraiser. They do a background check on you, and then they consider you a freelance contractor for the campaign. And then it is this flat-based commission, just like they would a regular professional political fundraiser. So why would having a quote-unquote freelance contractor be questionable?
Well, it's not so much that it's questionable as it's just kind of a pain from a regulatory standpoint. I mean, there's a reason no one's done this. Every fundraiser has to have a letter indicating that you're an agent for the campaign. And, I mean, the reality is most federal campaigns don't want mass numbers of unvetted people as their campaign agents. And so, I mean, it's a lot more complicated than it sounds. I think there's a lot of liability to have all these agents out there that are technically representing you as your campaign. But it sounds like, I mean, if they're going to do the work to vet people and manage them, well, then, let's give it a shot. I mean, they're not going to get Debbie in their downline, but maybe people like me and Dave, who knows, right?
Usually with a multi-level marketing organization, there's some sort of a product, right, that somebody's getting. So if that's an MLM, I'm buying something.
He is the product.
Right, right. So I don't. I guess he's the product, but I don't get anything to take home with me, like plastic shoes or a cutting board or a lipstick, or I'm not buying anything tangible. It just seems so just. Okay, that's a whole nother discussion about MLMs for another day versus I don't know if this is all. It just seems weird to me. And I do think this is when it would be like if I really wanted to lose a friend or I didn't want to be invited to Thanksgiving dinner, I would totally sign up to be one of his fundraisers, whatever he's going to call them, and go start pitching this to people because I do think it would just create all kinds of havoc in relationships.
Well, what's interesting, Debbie, is people do this anyway, and they call them bundlers, right? I mean, so there's a lot of folks, like, for instance, when Mitt Romney ran for president, he had a number of well-known, well-connected, wealthy Utahns who were his bundlers. And I mean, you max out right now. I mean, I don't know if people know this, but you can only give $3,300 to a candidate per cycle. And so what bundlers do is they call all their other friends and encourage them to get, $3,300 and to donate it. And so I think what Vivek's basically saying is, look, people do this anyway. It's not a great system. There's a lot of problems with it. But since we have what's called bundlers, hey, why not get paid for bundling? So, I mean, it's a great way to enlist the masses, and we'll see if it works. My hunch is, and Debbie, you may get a sense of this, but I think my hunch is it's probably not going to work very well. But it is a clever idea that it grabs some headlines.
Well, I think campaign finance reform is certainly worth having a discussion and looking outside the box and thinking, is there a better way to do this? Because as you were describing this in detail of how this goes, it feels so overwhelming and so difficult. That would certainly scare me away from any prospect of ever running for some sort of office, because fundraising, it's a nightmare.
Well, and the Federal Elections Commission has a massive set of regulations, and they're not intuitive. And I said this earlier, and I mean it. They are designed not to make sure you're doing what is right or ethical or legal. They're designed to catch you doing something wrong, which is why whenever I hear that someone violated FEC guidelines, I kind of roll my eyes, because all that means is the FEC called up and said, hey, I know your attorney said you could do this, but we don't think you can anymore. And then there's a battle over what it means.
We've seen it happen.
They're really complicated.
Yeah, we've seen it happen time and time and time again. Derek Brown, former GOP chair, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Great conversation. Boyd Matheson, up next. We're going to talk about this third-party idea John Huntsman Jr. has been involved with called No Labels. Next.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. For a second day in a row, St. George is under an orange alert. Officials there are asking residents to be energy efficient, especially between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. by not using ovens, dishwashers, or clothes dryers that draw a lot of electric current. Other advice, don't open any doors to the outside to prevent air conditioners from running more than they need to. Customs officials putting out a call for more volunteers because they're working to keep track of unaccompanied migrant children. News Nation Southwestern correspondent Allie Bradley says top U.S. officials believe 85,000 children in HHS custody have gone missing.
These individuals, once they leave custody from an NGO or Border Patrol, they are not checked in on, you guys. They are not followed up with.
Bradley tells David Dujanovic the public's been paying more attention to the fate of migrant children after the release of the movie Sound of Freedom that talks about human trafficking. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Nuclear tensions ratcheting up in the Korean peninsula. More from ABC's Tom Rivers at the Foreign Desk.
This latest move by the administration will only anger North Korea. The U.S. has now deployed a nuclear-armed submarine to South Korea for the first time in 4 decades. National Security Coordinator for the region, Kurt Campbell.
If the North ever contemplated the use of nuclear weapons, our response would be overwhelming.
North Korea's conducted around 100 missile tests since the start of the year. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 317 points on the day. The NASDAQ is up 66. And our KSL weather, cloudy skies, but warm temperatures. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Looking for a trusted oral surgery practice? Look no further than Aspire Surgical. With a team of highly skilled and experienced board-certified oral and facial surgeons, Aspire Surgical offers a variety of surgical services, from wisdom teeth removal to dental implants to facial cosmetics. At Aspire Surgical, patient comfort and safety are top priorities. Their state-of-the-art facilities and advanced techniques ensure that patients receive the best possible care in a comfortable and safe environment. Visit their website at aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Trust Aspire Surgical for all your oral surgery needs. Visit aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Aspire Surgical, where your aspirations become a reality.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Emergency traffic now brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
Up north, way up north, we have bad delays, and as you can imagine, it's due to construction. Only one lane of travel open both directions of I-15 in Box Elder County. Now your northbound slow and go and stop and go speeds start as you're passing Willard Bay all the way up to the SR 13 Corinne Junction. Southbound delays start prior to Corinne and continue down to the Highway 8991 exit to Brigham City. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. Going on now through August 4th in Park City at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather still hot, but we could see some scattered thunderstorms today and tomorrow. Today's high 99, 97 tomorrow, back up to 104 by the weekend. And right now, mostly cloudy and 88 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Let's talk about No Labels. It's a bipartisan organization that hopes to looking to possibly add a third-party candidate to the ballot in all 50 states for the 2024 presidential race. They held a town hall yesterday in New Hampshire. Former governor of Utah, also ambassador to China and Russia, John Huntsman Jr. was on hand. And I opened up their manifesto. I've got the PDF. It says, Boyd says it's 69 pages. It says 72. Maybe
Graphics.
There's some footnotes and stuff like that about what they stand for. But this is really what that town hall was all about.
You say manifesto. I think it's more of a platform. I don't know. A mission statement. What I do like, I like that folks actually put their ideas in writing that you can hold them accountable for. And Boyd so often this thing starts off probably manageable and reasonable, and then it just grows and expands and expands. I would imagine the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, they have something similar. It would be much larger because they've been around much longer.
Yeah, and it's actually much like government. They've been taken over by special interests. I was actually on the Constitution Committee for the Republican Party back in 2016, and it is thousands and thousands of words. Like it is 70 times longer than the Constitution.
Wow.
And every little special interest group gets their little thing plugged in there, and no politician ever goes back and read, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. And very interesting, if you want to go real historic, Abraham Lincoln ran on a party platform that was 1,720 pages or 20 words long, single page.
That's
platform. Principles.
I've written essays that long.
Principles.
Yeah.
And a set of very few policy things that really mattered.
One thing we touched on yesterday was this platform, this document that they were going to release, and it's called A Common Sense Agenda. And it's released by No Labels. It's kind of the organizations that's contemplating a third-party candidate. Okay, I want to get to the immigration and border security portion of their constitution, of their platform. It says America is a nation of laws, so we must immediately regain control of our borders, stop releasing migrants who enter America illegally into the country. And then the second point they make is America is also a nation of immigrants. So we should create a path to citizenship for the dreamers and a plan to attract more legal immigrants because more hardworking taxpayers means lower inflation and faster economic growth. So, and those are the 2 points and the only points under immigration and border security. Yeah. And they're addressing it, it's brief, but from both sides of that situation.
Isn't that a radical concept? That we have rule of law and compassion, and they're showing that they're compatible principles. Now, if you ask the partisans on the left and the right, they're both going to freak out about those two statements. One's going to freak out and say, wait a minute, we can't enforce asylum laws. We can't do this. And the other's going to say, well, wait a minute, we can't let the dreamers have a path to citizenship. And what they're saying, those two sentences you just read, Debbie, 90% of the country says, I'm okay with that.
Well, I shook my head yes as I was reading it.
You did.
Yeah. Then here's the part about America's youth, and I mean, I love that they're talking about helping our children, giving them a hand up, not a hand out, but as a matter of decency, they say dignity and morality. No child in America should go to bed or to school hungry.
Yeah.
This just gives me chills.
Yeah.
You know?
Practical. Tactical.
Where have they
been?
Yeah. Where has this been? And in fact, John Huntsman Jr., speaking to NBC's Meet the Press, it talked about the possibility of getting a third party on the 2024 ballot.
For the first time in recent history, you have over 20% of the American people who, via polling, would suggest that none of the above would be acceptable if, in fact, we have a replay of 2020. So we are, in a sense, creating an insurance policy. So what No Label is doing, which is rather unprecedented, is getting ballot access in all 50 states. That's a tall order. I mean, I don't think it's ever been done before by an independent movement. So people say, well, you're running for this, you're running for that. We're not running for anything. Joe called, like he did 12 years ago when we came together to co-chair No Labels, and he said, the common sense majority has no voice. Let's go to New Hampshire and present this document that is full of some common sense solutions.
Boyd, you know John Huntsman Jr. very well. An incredible resume, ambassador to China, ambassador to Russia, former governor here, presidential candidate. He's done everything. Why do you think he is uniquely qualified to speak to this platform?
I think the very reasons you just outlined there in terms of that there are, I don't know if there's anybody who has that resume on the planet or ever will again. I don't think you'll ever have someone who's ambassador to both China and Russia. That just won't happen. So he understands that part of it. He's done the presidential thing, so he knows what it's like to run a presidential campaign. He knows what that access looks like. He knows how hard that is. So I think he's very honest that way. As I interacted with him yesterday, he made a really interesting comment just in a text. He said, something is different in New Hampshire this time. Because there's always kind of a protest candidate in New Hampshire. It's New Hampshire. That's what they do. He said, but this is very different. It feels different. And I think that's an important part of this. And one thing you have to remember, I've been a part of a number of campaigns who started below the margin of error. So like maybe you had 2%, which means you probably could be at -2.
-2, right.
And in all of those, there is a pattern. And this is what I think we need to watch. The fact that both the left and the right, the Democrats and Republicans, the business of politics is freaking out. That's instructive to me. Because normally what happens, you start as a 2%er. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win. And I think that's what No Labels is trying to prove out, that, yeah, you've ignored us for a few years now. Now you're ridiculing us in a lot of ways. Now the big guns are coming out. MoveOn.org, Dick Gephardt. You got leaders in the Republican side and the Democrat side who are saying these guys aren't serious. They're a threat to democracy. They're going to ensure that former President Trump wins, or they're going to ensure that President Biden gets 4 more years. They're fighting them. And to me, it's time to pop the popcorn and watch that play out, because the big business of politics is worried that the big business of politics may not win. And Dave, just to you raised a point yesterday that just had me keep thinking that, we talk about these third parties, and in the end, everybody gets cold feet, and you just do the status quo. And that's the problem, because our politicians on the left and the right have convinced us that you're throwing away your vote. You can vote for whoever you want, but if you do that, you're going to ensure that the bad guys win.
Yeah.
And that's what they want us to believe. Because as long as we believe that, the status quo prevails. And if nothing else, this little movement inside of No Labels should cause all of us to really think, well, wait a minute, why is it that they think I'm throwing away my vote? And what happens if one of us or 10 of us or 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 decide to get on this train? It would change everything.
One of my favorite things about this document, it probably will take an hour to read, at most. How much time do you spend just scrolling through, watching terrible Netflix shows? But one of the things I love about this is, as I haven't read it completely, but it's helped clarify my own thoughts. I'm like, ooh, you said it exactly the way I think it, though I haven't been able to verbalize it that well. And I think even with the stuff that I disagree with, it verbalizes it in a way that is very, very clear. Like, I clearly hate that idea, but at least I can have a very good response to it, and that's part of the reason I think this is a very worthwhile thing to read. Boyd Matheson, thank you for joining us. Inside Sources today from 1 to 3.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
This Pioneer Day, take KSL along, whatever adventure your family has planned. Tim and Amanda have important news and weather, blazing a trail each morning from 5 to 9. Get analysis from Dave and Dujanovic at 9 and Boyd Matheson at 1. And Jeff Kaplan has important updates and his minute of news as you caravan home. We round up everything you need to know in one place. KSL News Radio.
Would you be upset if you lost $111,000 in retirement income? Get this, 96% of Americans, 96% lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a free report, the Social Security Decisions Guide from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. If you saved at least $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get this free report by calling 801-682-4448. This free report is loaded with critical information that can help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income. So call 801-682-4448. That's 801-682-4448. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
You know, for a long time, we've been working very closely here at KSL News Radio with BeReady.utah.gov, Be Ready Utah. And one topic I don't think we've ever addressed is cybersecurity in the state of Utah. So we invited from the Utah Department of Public Safety cyber threat intelligence analyst Catherine Chipman, who joins us right now. And Catherine, so often we've heard this: if you see something, say something. How does that apply to cybersecurity in the state of Utah?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It really applies the same way as the campaign. If you see something, say something. If you see anything that's suspicious, you ask yourself, what is normal? You can do that online as well. What is normal in your virtual community? You know what your virtual community best. And so if you see something abnormal, maybe you're getting an invoice that you're like, I'd never bought something from that company. I'm getting an email from a friend that I haven't seen in a long time. Those would be suspicious behaviors.
Okay, so when I see something suspicious, typically and I've told my mom this a million times, she's like, I got a text. I'm like, just ignore it, Mom. But is there a better way to handle it other than just ignoring?
Yeah, so when you get suspicious behavior, there's several different platforms that you can report this behavior to. The first is the Department of Homeland Security. They have a website called If You See Something, Say Something, and you can go on there and they will connect you to all the different fusion centers in the state. And from that link, you'll find our link, the Statewide Information and Analysis Center, and there is a link there that says Report Suspicious Activity, and then you can go and click Submit a Tip. But I would like to add, if there's an actual crime committed, please call your local law enforcement.
Okay, so I can just call the cops, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. Catherine, if you don't mind sticking around, I want to have more of this conversation because I think this has affected so many of us. We all deal with scams and cybersecurity, and we're worried about it and on so many levels. So if you don't mind sticking around, but there's a great resource at beready.utah.gov to learn more about cybersecurity in the state of Utah.
WTF. Yeah, you heard right. Bruh, meat prices, right? Yeah. No, Summit Harley is willing to finance. Will he finance steak? Oh, get out of here. Come down to Summit Harley's WTF 10 event this week. Good credit, bad credit, or no credit, we can help. Summit Harley has finance specialists on site to help get you approved. Summit has the largest new and used Harley inventory in the state. It's Summit Harley's pre-owned overstock Harley sell-off this week, and we must finance 50 pre-owned bikes by this Saturday at Summit Harley. Willing to finance 10 event ends this Saturday. Summit Harley is Utah's #1 volume Harley dealer on approved credit.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay. Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Mountain Star Healthcare's Harriman Emergency Center is now open. Be seen fast at the Harriman ER located just off Mountain View Corridor and 134th South in Harriman.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the orange alert continues in St. George today, where residents are asked not to use electrical appliances in the afternoon and evening to keep air conditioners running. Second, once again, the Powerball jackpot has crossed the $1 billion mark for the next drawing. And third, the U.S. Navy has stationed a nuclear missile submarine in South Korea. Tensions with North Korea are increasing after a series of missile tests. Right now, 88 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The July heat wave. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
We've talked about at these hot temperatures how important it is to stay hydrated, keep drinking water. Certainly one of the most important ways to make sure you don't develop some sort of heat-related illness. But Dave kind of wondered, is it possible to drink too much water, overhydrate?
Yeah, and I thought about this. I saw an article, and it said, what about overhydration? I said, is that a thing? Is that really a thing, overhydration? And I started thinking about how much water I had been drinking over the past couple of days. I had done some yard work in the heat, shoveling rocks, and I was just sweating profusely, and I was just guzzling tons and tons of water. Yesterday, I played pickleball for 4.5 hours. So I wanted to measure how much water had I been drinking, and I measured it, Deb. I got it.
Oh, good.
31 cups of water. That's 200 and something, 230 ounces.
Oh, wow, Dave.
It's a ton. But again, I was outside. I was sweating like crazy. But it did make me start questioning. I'm like, am I overhydrating? Because I was thirsty. I was definitely thirsty. So was there a downside to all this water
We
drinking?
need to call up Diet Coke and get his response to you drinking that much water. They'd be super jealous because usually
They're cheating on me.
All you do is guzzle Diet Coke. I'm not too worried about this. As I read that article that you handed me, it was what CBS News had done a story. I personally wasn't too worried about it. I generally drink about 100 ounces of water a day. As you know, I work out a ton and spend a lot of time outdoors. But the article said you have to drink 48 ounces of water in 1 hour to put yourself at risk of overconsumption. And I drink 100 ounces in usually like an 18-hour time frame. But Dr. TJ Hartridge, he's a wilderness medicine fellow at the University of Utah Health. He's on the line right now. And so clear this up for us. Is there such a thing as drinking too much water, doctor?
There is, yes. Thanks for having me on to discuss the topic. This is pretty interesting. It's one that I agree with you. I don't think about it too frequently, but it is possible. If you are really forcing yourself to drink an overhydrate, essentially, so you're drinking, multiple Nalgene's an hour, then yes, you can essentially throw your body's balance off. And we get worried about something called hyponatremia or water intoxication, like your low salt levels start to occur. And that's because you're getting fluid shifts, and water likes to go where all the things are, which are usually inside the cells, and they can make the cells swell. And that can definitely lead to some complications and some concerns. You can start to get some altered mental status, as we call it, so confusion, some balance issues, increasing fatigue. And that can get really severe and can lead to comas and potentially even death in some cases from creating that severe derangement in your electrolytes. So it's something we think about. It's definitely something to be mindful of if you are force-feeding yourself water. But I just heard you guys say a couple really important things, and, you're drinking when you're thirsty. And that's one of the biggest recommendations that we make. I'm actually at a Wilderness Medicine Society conference right now, and the idea of exercise-associated hyponatremia, or those endurance athletes that are overhydrating themselves, and they're not snacking, and they're not eating throughout the course of the race, and they're not giving themselves those electrolytes back in simple food and snacks, and they're overhydrating, drinking beyond their thirst because they're told that they have to stay hydrated. And that can lead to those issues that we just kind of talked about. So it is a risk, but it's not something I would be super concerned about. It is more important to stay hydrated.
You used a phrase that I hadn't heard before: water intoxication. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, so you're essentially it's a state where you kind of start to get that altered mental status. So you're causing some fluid shifts, and you're causing the sodium levels, the electrolyte levels to start to get altered and shifting. And some people get that confusion and almost appear intoxicated. They can get balance issues, what we call ataxia, and that can all be part of the complication of too much water. And that's because if you remember like high school chemistry and physics, osmosis, water goes to where the solutes are. So you'll get water shifts, and most of those solutes, the salts and things, are intracellular or inside the cell, and you get the swelling of the cells, especially in the brain and places like that, and that can create that status change, and it can appear like intoxication.
Dr. TJ Hartridge, he's a wilderness medicine fellow at the University of Utah Health, talking to him right now about the potential, if you drink too much water, of overhydrating and the risks if you do. I want to talk about kids. I think a lot of parents listening, as their kids are playing football, for example, at high school level, and they're on the gridiron right now, doctor.
Right.
How much should kids be consuming, especially if they're very active in this heat?
Yeah, I think it's not a matter of how much, because I think if we start to make the statements of like, well, you have to consume this many ounces of water, a day or per hour to stay hydrated, quote unquote, I think that's where you can get into trouble. I think it's more important to really pay attention to two factors: your thirst. So drink to thirst. If you're thirsty, you should hydrate yourself. If you're not thirsty, you're probably fine. And then also you can pay attention to your urine. How much are you peeing? are you peeing? Because if you haven't peed in a while and you'd expect yourself to go use the restroom, that could be a sign of dehydration. And if you then do go to the bathroom and you have really kind of dark, what would be considered concentrated urine, the body is trying to reclaim as much of that water back to keep itself hydrated, so that urine becomes more and more concentrated. It gets really dark. If you're hydrating well, it's going to be clearer yellow, and it can still be yellow. That's okay. But the more hydrated you are, it will become more kind of water appearing when you're peeing. And if you're peeing just purely clear, and you're drinking too much water, you're forcing yourself to drink even though you're not thirsty, and you're not eating snacks to replenish your electrolytes, then you can start to run into that concern, that overhydration scenario, where you're getting too much water and your salt levels might be going too low, leading to all those concerning things we were talking about. But if the kiddo's thirsty and wants to drink, let them drink. Make sure that they're snacking those so they're getting their electrolytes back. I think you can sometimes run into trouble if you're using the sports drinks and things like that. But I think they can be used safely if you're kind of diluting them out and you're allowing yourself to drink them appropriately. And then remember to hydrate over time. If you're just pounding big gallons of water at a time, that can definitely lead to some issues there because you're overhydrating yourself in a short period of time. Your body needs a little bit of time to balance that out, for your kidneys to filter through it, for the fluids to shift where they need to be shifting inside the body to keep you balanced.
Is there a benefit? Final question. I know we only have 30 seconds, but I'm just curious. Does the temperature of the water, does that play at all into this? If it's ice cold or lukewarm?
That's a good question. And I honestly wouldn't have an accurate comment that would be evidence-based or insightful in that regard. Okay. I do know colder water tastes better for me personally, but some people like warmer.
Love ice, yes.
I think that, and I think that it's more about just staying hydrated. I think the temperature of the water, your body will make it whatever temperature it needs to be inside the body to make sure it gets absorbed appropriately. You will potentially, there's the theory that if you're putting really cold water in the body, it's going to require a little bit more energy. Your caloric intake is going to need to be higher to get it warmer to be used. But I think in these temperatures, when you're talking about this level, it's kind of a moot point. I think your water is water, and as long as you're hydrating yourself, water is the preferred method. And then for all the other electrolytes and things you need, just making sure you're eating throughout the day with that, and your body will do the rest.
Dr. Hartridge, thank you for joining us, a wilderness medicine fellow at the University of Utah. Yeah, overhydration is a thing. He says don't be overly concerned about it. If you're thirsty, drink. Pay attention. And then that was some great tips. Thanks, Dr. Hartridge.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. A wildfire near Flaming Gorge has grown to 100 acres. It's not contained. As of last night, only 5 acres had been on fire, but crews are working with land and air crews to try and get that one under control. Dozens of campers have also been evacuated out of an abundance of caution. Former President Donald Trump says he's a target. He's gotten a letter from the special prosecutor investigating the attempts to overturn the 2020 election. KSL legal analyst Greg Skorda says there's a difference between a suspect and a person of interest or a target in this kind of investigation.
You're a target of the investigation. You're more than just a person of interest. You're more than just a subject. And when people get a target letter, that means that you're certainly entitled to Fifth and Sixth Amendment privileges.
Mr. Trump has 4 days to report to the January 6th grand jury. Skorda says his attorneys are most likely advising Trump not to speak. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's a $640 million Mega Millions drawing tonight. And if you don't win that one, then there's an even bigger Powerball drawing later this week. Details from ABC's DeMarco Morgan.
We all have at least one more shot at becoming the next billionaire. That's because no one ticket matched all 6 numbers in the winning Powerball jackpot there, which is worth an estimated $1 billion. And for those of you at home who are doing the math, that's $516.8 million in a cash option, making it the 3rd largest Powerball jackpot in history.
And your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average having a strong update, 302 points up right now. The NASDAQ is down 82 points, or up rather, 82 points. And our KSL weather, just hot with some clouds on top. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Here on the Dave and Dujanovic Show, we've been working with Be Ready Utah a lot and learning how to prepare yourself. They have a great website, beready.utah.gov. And we've talked a lot about how to be prepared for floods and earthquakes, a lot of stuff for your family. Well, how about this? Cybersecurity in the state of Utah. Catherine Chipman joins me right now from the Utah Department of Public Safety. And speaking of ways to protect yourself, obviously, not getting scammed in the first place is great. But are there tips you can give our listeners to how, spot those scams and what to do?
Yeah, so we talked about suspicious behavior, not recognizing what's not normal. However, unfortunately, a lot of these scams are becoming very sophisticated, so more and more people are becoming victims. So things that you can do to help spot these scams is be really, really careful about email links and attachments. Yeah. Check with the sender first. Make sure that that's a legitimate email link. You can also look at the email sender. Sometimes these cyber criminals will just change one letter in a name. So if you have the name Brian, B-R-I-A-N, they'll just change it to B-R-Y-A-N, and you may not even notice that it's not your friend's name. You can also make sure that you're contacting, if you're doing a deal with a business and you have an invoice, contact that business directly. Don't use the contact information in the email where the invoice is given to you. Check with them directly and make sure that's a legitimate invoice.
I have so many devices in my house. I try to keep track of them between the iPhones, iPads, different, sometimes it's a Samsung, sometimes it's an iPhone. What can people do when they have so many devices?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. A lot of people don't think about devices as needing to be secure, but there is a lot of cyber crime that happens on devices. Some of the basic things that you know but are sometimes forgotten is keeping strong passwords. I know this can be annoying for people, but you really do need to keep complex passwords, and you need to be changing those every 3 months. People don't realize that 3 months is a long time to have the same password. Keeping your software up to date. I know it's a pain, but there are a lot of vulnerabilities out there that these software companies are patching, and that's what's happening when you're updating your software is you're getting those patches put in place to keep those vulnerabilities from being exploitable by cyber actors.
Passwords and updates. Just deal with it, folks. You got to do it. You got to have the good stuff, the strong passwords and the constant updates. Cybersecurity in the state of Utah is obviously something that Be Ready Utah is taking very, very seriously. You can go to beready.utah.gov to find out more about cybersecurity in the state of Utah.
Don't be worried. Be ready. KSL News Radio is partnering with Be Ready Utah to provide the plans your family needs for an emergency, the tools and supplies to keep on hand, and the knowledge on how to keep a cool head. It's Be Ready Utah. Listen for Be Ready tips and tools each Tuesday with Dave and Dujanovic. Plus, find the latest preparation info at beready.utah.gov. That's beready.utah.gov. Be Ready Utah with KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
Heavy construction delays both north and southbound I-15 between just north of Corinne to Willard Bay. Again, only one lane of travel open in each direction. And we also have an accident called out in Magna. This is at the 21st South Freeway at about 80th West. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County: history, recreation, and wildlife, along with excellent dining and shopping await you. Find out more? Visit boxeldercounty.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather still hot, but we could see some scattered thunderstorms today and tomorrow. Today's high 99, 97 tomorrow, back up to 104 by the weekend. And right now, we're looking at 87 degrees and mostly cloudy skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
3 Republicans going to be on the primary ballot running to replace Congressman Chris Stewart in Utah's 2nd Congressional District. And, of course, we're bringing you all of the latest information on all of them, and there's nobody better in the I'm going to say in the entire state of Utah.
Stop
but
it.
KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts to keep us up to speed on these candidates. And she recently did a story, I heard it on Utah's Morning News, on what sets these candidates apart.
These are in alphabetical order. Here's Becky Edwards.
I am a proven, pragmatic leader who has lived in this district for 30 years and served this district in the Utah House for 10 years. I know these people. These are my people. This is my district.
Bruce Huff.
I'm the authentic Republican, the only one who has actually voted for the Republican presidential nominee in the last election.
And Celeste Malloy.
I'm like the people in this district. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to live in the district, and I've been fighting for the district.
Becky, Bruce, Celeste, those are the three candidates. Celeste is the convention winner. Becky and Bruce were the signature gatherers. Lindsay Aerts joins us right now. The question I think a lot of us are asking is, what's different about them? We probably know there's they're Republicans, so there's some commonality there, but where do they differ?
Yeah, that is a good question, and the one I kind of set out to answer a little bit. They are all Republicans. They believe in smaller government. They believe in some of the traditional Republican values that you hear about. And so while that they all have in common, they do differ a little bit on their leadership styles and their experience, and that kind of shapes how they are going to tackle some of these policies. So just what I did was asked each candidate to give me that 10-second soundbite, that elevator pitch, right? And I let them pick it. I let them pick their 10-second. I didn't pick those. I gave them the opportunity to say, tell me in 10 seconds what you want voters to know.
Can we start with Bruce Huff?
Yeah.
Let's start with Bruce Huff.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that we can have effect with is to help Congress do their job, which is to legislate rather than to defer these kinds of decision makings to bureaucracies and to regulatory agencies. I think one of the key elements is that we, as legislators, have to rein in these bureaucracies from doing that, and have the courage to basically say, no, you're not allowed to do that. And oh, by the way, this is in adjacent property that's privately held or is publicly held within the jurisdictions that are of the state or of the municipality, and that we need to give proper credence to their role as local government. I think the other thing is we need to find ways to access more of the federal land that is landlocked, that through exchanges and trades and other access methodologies, because there is so much of this federal land that simply is not accessible, and it was all intended to better education in the state, and much of it is not available to do any of that. And this is a unique Western problem, because the federal government decided that they would continue to control those federal lands, when in the eastern United States they did what was constitutionally required, which was to give those to the states to administer and to operate on.
So what I did there, Dave, was I actually asked them for their 10-second elevator pitch, and then I asked them each the same questions on different issues so I could get kind of and compare their responses. Very unscientific poll, but and I put it all at kslnewsradio.com so you could compare side by side the issues. So Bruce there was talking about how he would address federal red tape in Utah. An issue that's really important to the voters of the 2nd District is their public lands, right? And a lot of what the state deals with public lands is the bureaucracy that comes out of Washington, D.C., especially the Republicans don't like this, we'll call it red tape for lack of a better word, right? Where the federal government, controls the land, and so we have to go through Washington to figure out what we're going to do with those lands, right? So wanted to get the candidates' perspective on how they see themselves inserting themselves in working through some of that red tape. So that was Bruce's response there. And then I also asked the same thing of Becky Edwards.
Federal bureaucracy is a real challenge, and what I can say is looking at innovative ways to utilize land transfers and coordinating with all of the different agencies is really important. We see this in transfers of SITLA lands. We see this with BLM. And I think those kinds of cooperative relationships that help people gain increased access and multi-use, that's the approach that we want to see.
And then finally, I talked with Celeste Malloy, who's actually been working for the congressman on some of these issues. So she talked about that in terms of how she would handle this BLM red tape.
So this is what I've been doing for the last several years as a deputy county attorney and also working for Congressman Stewart. Sometimes the agencies just get bogged down in the regulations, and it takes somebody getting in and working with them and helping them sort through it and keeping the pressure on to keep things moving. And sometimes it takes somebody going in at the higher levels of the agencies and putting on pressure to get the locals to move. And I've done both.
So there you can see kind of the differences in just their leadership styles. Becky talks a lot about having those conversations that, those difficult conversations that need to be had between the different agencies. Celeste talks about her experience in working for the congressman on these issues. And then Bruce kind of has a broader plan of some of the things that the state needs to do to regain some of the land within the federally controlled land. And so it really kind of boils down to their experiences and how they've worked differently on not only on these issues, but in having some of these other tough conversations on these issues as they've worked in their respective fields.
You can find your entire report on KSLNewsRadio.com. What are some of the other topics that you wanted to address?
Yeah, so we talked about public lands, BLM red tape. We talked about LGBTQ plus issues because among Republicans, I wanted to know how they were different on some of these issues. We talked about what committees do they want to be on, and perhaps that can tell you a little bit about some of their priorities. And then I also asked them all three directly whether or not they'd be joining the Freedom Caucus in the House. That's a very conservative caucus of the House. All three of them said no. So I find it really interesting. Well, to be clear, Becky Edwards didn't say no, but it's not likely that she will join that caucus. But she did say she's willing to work with all groups of people. But that's interesting to me because all of them are Republicans, but I don't get the sense that any one of them is like in that lane that like throws red meat at a certain faction of the party, right? They're all just really issues focused, and I think that's going to be good for the district, right?
And the public lands issue is so important because more than 60% of Utah is made up of lands controlled by the federal government,
right?
Public lands. And that has been a hot button issue over years, decades.
And the second district has a lot of it.
And they do have a lot of it. Okay, go to KSLNewsRadio.com. You can see more of Lindsay's story there and her interviews with the candidates, the Republican candidates in the 2nd Congressional District. Also want to make note, I'll be right back here tomorrow at 11:20. That's when we'll have Bruce Huff live in person. We're working to get Becky Edwards in the coming days. You spoke to Celeste Malloy, Dave, while I was away on vacay.
Yeah, and we'll speak to the Democratic nominee as well. So we're very interested in this race. It's a crucial seat. It's very important right now in the House of Representatives. There's a very narrow margin for the Republicans. They have the majority, but not by very many seats. I think it's 4 seats or so. So once Congressman Stewart steps down, it will be very important for the Republicans to make sure they have representation to help out in Congress. Thanks, Lindsay.
You bet, guys.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
Hi, Doug Wright, and let's talk about your barbecue. And let's talk about your barbecue skills. Maybe that old barbecue of yours was buried under the snow and you're just now in the process of getting it functional again. Now, we know you grill a pretty mean steak, but how about if we just all relax? It's July. We've been doing a lot of celebrating lately. It's time to get into Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Why not let them grill the perfect steak for you and for your family? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, they have 2 locations, Hotel Park City and, of course, downtown Salt Lake City. A lot of people like to kind of mesh things together. They're going to a ball game, going to a movie, or they're going to go up hiking in Summit County in the Park City area. Well, they make the reservation for that evening at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and you're going to have the best steak you have ever had. And the desserts, the side dishes, the other entrees too. It's Hotel Park City and 275 Southwest Temple in downtown Salt Lake City.
Let's talk cyber crimes and cybersecurity with Be Ready Utah. Catherine Chipman has been joining me for the past hour or so, a supervisor of cyber threat intelligence analyst with the Utah Department of Public Safety. And I want to ask you what we're doing here in Utah. What are some of the things that are being done, perhaps through legislation, to help with cybersecurity in Utah?
Thank you. We're really lucky here in the state of Utah to have a governor who cares and is aware that cybercrime is a big problem, especially for the state of Utah. And so in October of 2021, the governor announced what's called the Governor Cybersecurity Task Force. And in 2022, this was put into code by a bill that was proposed and passed that created what's called the Cybersecurity Commission. The Cybersecurity Commission has duties to protect the state against cyber attacks and brings together resources from both the public, private, and critical infrastructure sector. So we're lucky to have people sitting from the public, private, and critical infrastructure on the Cyber Commission that then make recommendations that they give to the legislature, and then they can take those and decide what they're going to do to pass into law.
So how does the Cybersecurity Commission accomplish these goals?
Yeah, it's a big task. It's a big task that they've been given, so that we divided the commission into 4 subcommittees. We have one for assets and resources, one for best practices and recommendations, one for public-private partnership engagement and outreach, and then the last one is cyber incident and disruption response. So each of these subcommittees will meet, discuss different recommendations in these different categories that they can then propose that will help secure the state of Utah.
BeReady.utah.gov is such a great website for so many things to get you prepared, whether it's floods or earthquakes. But cybersecurity is crucial, and there is another link, SIAC.utah.gov, SIAC.utah.gov, and you can click on the tab that says cyber crimes and cybersecurity and educate yourself and learn what you can do to help protect yourself, what to do if you are being scammed. It's a great resource. Catherine, thank you for joining us with the Utah Department of Safety. I think we've all been scammed, or people have tried to scam us in the past, and being educated and learning and knowing what to do when something like that happens, because it can be an absolute disruptor to your life. Catherine Chipman, thank you for joining us.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. With over 30 years of industry experience, EnviroServe is a rapidly growing company that specializes in safely and sustainably managing industrial waste and environmental incidents. Nathan Savage, EnviroServe's CEO, joins us with more.
From our vibrant cities and towns to our beautiful natural landscapes, our Utah environment is a national treasure worth protecting. Here at EnviroServe, we're committed to building environmental sustainability, both in Utah and across the country, by working to ensure that waste is managed properly, safely, and in an eco-conscious way. Based in the greater Salt Lake City area, we have highly trained team members and specialized equipment at 36 locations nationwide and growing. With a focus on enabling our customers to achieve their sustainability goals, we deliver reliable, expert waste handling and processing services, always striving to reduce, recover, and recycle waste. Should there ever be an accident or natural disaster resulting in contamination, we are the first to respond to thoroughly clean and effectively restore the environment. We are mindful of our role as environmental stewards, providing essential services that protect health and safety and positively impact our communities in Utah and everywhere we serve throughout the country.
With more than 600 team members nationwide, EnviroServe is leading the way in delivering essential environmental services that help create a more sustainable world. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a wildfire near Flaming Gorge has covered 100 acres. It was started by lightning. Second, former President Trump has been told he's a target of the ongoing special counsel investigation into the January 6th attack at the U.S. Capitol. Third, there's a $1 billion jackpot again in the Powerball lottery. Right now, 88 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, last week when Dave was on vacay, we talked about last-minute summer getaways. And none of those that we talked about last week, Dave, they're all like 3-hour drives away, quick trips for the weekend. Those don't require passports.
No.
But if you are thinking about traveling in the near future and you haven't checked the expiration date on your passport, or you do not have a passport, and you need one, you're gonna listen up to this.
Okay, this is important because I've had my passport for a number of years. I don't know exactly how long I've had it. Because isn't it good for 10 years?
Yeah.
It's like a chunk of time. So I don't know exactly when it's good or how long it's good for, but this is very important to me. And the reason I'm listening, Deb, is I have a daughter. She's living in Paraguay right now. And if something were to happen, the last thing I would want is for a passport problem to keep me from flying down there if needed.
Dave, I think with so many missionaries serving on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they're serving overseas, I hadn't even thought about that. I just looked at this in terms of like, hey, if you want to go to Paris or you want to go drive across the border to Canada, but this is a real potentially serious matter for dads like you.
Yeah, because if dad needs to fly down for his missionary in Paraguay, it's not because it's a casual fun thing. It's because dad needs to be there today.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell me what I need to know about my passport.
Okay, you're just gonna absolutely, processing times right now are months. Used to be a few weeks. Yeah, I used to be a few weeks, 10 to 13 weeks.
What if you expedite it?
7 to 9 weeks, not much better. And it costs an extra $60 to expedite. Which, if you're in a pickle, that $60 feels like nothing, right? But still, that's like
3 months away,
2.5 months.
Wow.
And that if you're in an urgent situation where you needed to get out of the country right away, you'd be in some trouble trying to get that passport figured out. So I heard this actually on Utah's Morning News. Tim and Amanda did a great job with the conversation that they had with Shannon Crawford. She's the ABC News State Department correspondent. She called the show. They asked a question like, what is going on? Is there just a huge influx in applications where we just all want to get out of the country? Or are there staffing issues? Here's what she said.
It's something that lawmakers call a perfect storm. You're seeing that demand, that pent-up demand during the pandemic, make its way into these passport processing offices. Now, the State Department says they're receiving about 400,000 applications each and every week. Believe it or not, that's actually down from 500,000 applications a week in the first couple months of this year. You add that to the backlog from last year, and there's just not enough employees to process it all in a timely manner. And that's why we've seen those expected wait times grow and grow as the year has gone on.
And you might remember there's been some discussion about bringing a passport office here to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a little groundswell there for that. Nothing is imminent, not necessarily saying that is going to happen, but I think there is this desperation to get these numbers down, because if I want to travel, if I want to do something, I may not have 3 or 4 months of lead time.
Shannon Crawford, ABC News correspondent for the State Department. She actually is works the beat. That's her beat. This is the State Department. She spoke to like what your situation would be, the thing that you probably keeps you awake sometimes at night. Like, I got to check my passport just in case Aubrey needs me in a pinch. What do you do if you face an emergency and you need to travel?
And it can be hard to snag an appointment, and of course then you're adding extra travel and cost onto your itinerary just to get the passport. Yeah, I've spoken to people who have gone to Buffalo, New York has been a popular destination for those who have been able to snag an appointment at that office. Now, there are special scenarios at the State Department if you are, experiencing a life or death travel emergency, or if you have travel already booked and coming up within 2 weeks. It is possible that, you'll be able to get an appointment, to get your documents in order. But I can tell you from, even some personal experience, you're going to experience a lot of stress to get that done. So it is far better to check your expiration date.
Yeah, so if you get in a bind, you have to probably go to one of the passport offices, and there isn't one here. I went to the Sandy City Hall to get my passport, but that's in the basement of a city hall or an office building at City Hall.
It's where they'll process it.
That's not the State Department at Sandy City Hall. That's some awesome employees of Sandy City at Sandy City Hall helping, but they're not like they're not the final stamp of approval people. They just take your photo that looks horrible, and then they do a good job of making me look horrible, by the way, and then send it off to the passport office, and then you get it a few weeks later. But we're talking about delays in getting passports. It's now up to as long as 13 weeks. And I bet you didn't know this, Dave. I'm going to tell you something that I learned years ago you said earlier, my passport is good for like 10 years. It's good for you. It's actually, it doesn't work once it's 6 months out in many cases from expiration. And what I mean by that is other countries don't observe the expiration date as the actual expiration date. They want there's a 6 month window before the actual expiration date where they look at that and say, yeah, essentially your passport is expired to us.
That's silly.
Well, it's what it is. I knew that when I traveled to Europe the last time, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to make sure that my passport hasn't been lingering around in this file cabinet long enough that if I get overseas, I'm not able to get back because I'm not within that 6 month window. So it's really like, I look at your passport, it's good for 9.5 years.
Well, thanks a lot. I'm going to have to go look at my passport. It's buried. Like you said, it's buried somewhere. Isn't it? It's not like we keep it out in front of us all the time and look at it, reminisce about those stamps.
Really, really good information. Of course, Tim and Amanda back tomorrow morning. Listen to them every morning from 5 to 9 right here on KSL News Radio just before our show.
Hey, before we leave for the day, we want to remind you guys, hey, there's a KSL night at the Days of 47, one of the best rodeos in the entire country. KSL night is on Wednesday, July 19th. We have 2 family packs. That's 5 packs of tickets that we'll be giving away to KSL Night at Wednesday's Rodeo. Listeners, all you have to do to win these, text the word rodeo at 57500. That's rodeo at 57500. But make sure you have to text on Tuesday for a chance to win.
That's today. We're already on Tuesday. I love the rodeo. I love the Days of 47 rodeo. I went last year. It is so much fun. It would be a great time to take your whole family. So make sure you get your text in today.
Yeah, 2 family 5 packs. There you go. 5 packs of tickets.
Maria is up next.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.